Looks like a count. Oh, here we go.
It's happening. Hi there, comic book friends. I'm Travis, and it's time for another edition of Comic Book Roundtable. Tonight I have with me Mike, Sergeant America. How's it going, Mike?
Excellent, excellent.
Awesome.
Glad to be on. Thank you, guys.
And we have with us Comic Duh Comic.
There we go.
How you going, sir?
It's been a while. Here we go.
It has been a long time. You've shown up in the comments a few times here lately, but it's been a while since we've had you on the show. Good to have you on. So we're going to talk lots of smack about comics. Hopefully we have something positive to say along the way. We've already spent the last 15 minutes off the air bitching and moaning about stuff, so it should be a good night of talking books. Where do we want to start tonight? Anything in particular?
I think DC, because I know that Mr. Comics to Comics is all loaded up.
Yeah.
Sweet. Let's just jump right into DC books. And we've got Batgirl, Future's End, right?
Yes.
I actually liked that one. So
Yeah. And I don't know if it was you or somebody else that I kept seeing on Twitter. It was popping up. I went back to my store Friday for this.
Oh.
And I have not been following it. I did get the trade, and I jumped into it. I know some of the background stuff from other comics on the characters of, her brother, and the idea of assembling a Batgirl team, a league of bats, or however she put it, and Barbara's build to being a badass, I thought was just amazing. So, it was a nice dark little twist.
So, do you care if I spoil, Travis?
No, go ahead. I hear Stephanie Brown's in it, yay?
Yeah.
All right.
So essentially what happened, when it starts out, I was a little apprehensive because when it starts out, it's Barbara on her future wedding day to some guy. They go into detail of who he is, but it was kind of generic guy. You get the feeling that this is not going to go well. It starts out right on her wedding day. Of course, the cliche happens. The guy, gets a dirt nap. And so from there, she kind of goes through the superhero transition that some people always criticized her about. Like, she never really had that death or that motivation to really make, and she kind of goes through that, and I liked that. But then she takes the Batman route and kind of gets involved in the criminal underground, kind of learning little bit by little bit from each supervillain, going into disguise. She eventually gets to the point where she goes and starts training under Bane, and she just turns into a major badass. She's burly, and she can kick anyone's ass. And then it transfers a little bit further in the future, and she's got her own team. She's got all the Batgirls ever. Even her name, she takes on a new name, is the first Batgirl's name. So every Batgirl is involved in this team, even Cassandra.
Nice.
So, yeah.
That's cool. See, that's one of the ones I heard about, and I was kind of excited. I'm like, I'm wishing I would have got that one because that sounds like fun.
I would like to see at least a little mini-series of it. At least I would totally pick it up. But again, I think there's not going to be any consequences from it. But it was good nonetheless, and we already know what direction Batgirl's going in reality. So
sure, nowhere where that is right. It's
exactly.
a much lighter book as opposed to this, hardcore book. Yeah.
Yeah, that is
who wrote that issue?
Gale, it's her last one.
Yeah.
Oh, so she did write that one. Okay.
Yeah, and it was like Comics to Comics said it would be great to see an Elseworlds on this. And from what I saw on Twitter blow up in that, I think if they're smart, they'll keep an eye on it and give her a chance when she gets the next time out. So
yeah, no, it's been, I would say that and Green Arrow have been the good ones in that. But I would say Green Arrow was a little bit better for me because I'm reading Future's End. I was wondering if people would be lost in kind of what's going on. If you read The Dark Knight Returns, you kind of knew it's kind of similar in that story arc of what Green Arrow's doing in Future's End. Spoiler, sorry.
Yeah.
But
cool.
But
this one doesn't really tie in, though, right? This one doesn't really tie into Future's End. It's just set in the future.
Yeah.
It's a one-shot as it gets. You can pick this up, read it. You're not missing out on anything. You're not spoiling anything.
I'll have to run to the chain store and see if I can find it. They have a copy.
Yeah.
I even got a fancy cover on it. Look at that.
Yeah.
And I did not. I decided to go cheap on this one.
You know what? If you're just dipping into this, that's the way to do it.
Well, it was about the story inside, too, because that's why I looked at it. I mean, it is a nice cover, and I was glad. If it would have been just a good girl cover, I wouldn't have got it, but it was the Bane troops or the
Yeah.
Beast. So
Yeah, I guess that's the biggest spoiler of all is that Bane Batgirl is Barbara, and she is gigantic. All of a sudden,
Ha.
I'm not spoiling the actual twist.
She's all
because
roided out, huh? Yeah.
I'm not saying anything. You'll have to read it because that's the best part, actually.
I did like that James showed up for her wedding. That's how everything goes bad. Is James
Mhm.
Jr.
Oh, nice.
So
Where's
exactly,
my
I mean,
invite? Yeah.
yeah.
Nice.
So I'm the only one that has more DC.
Yeah. Well, I got
Yes.
other DC. I got other DC books, just not Future Ends one.
Oh, good,
Oh.
good. I actually want to hear more about Eternal because I dropped that at 20.
Oh.
Well, the first trade's 1 through 20.
Right. Okay.
So
okay.
I'm
So
like,
yeah. So Batman Eternal. This is 23. Catwoman on the cover there. We finally get Catwoman kind of back in it. She well, they settle up stuff with the architect.
mhm.
Batman supposedly stops whatever was happening from happening. It ends up what ends up happening. The consequences of Batman's action, everything around the tower that they're trying to save gets leveled instead because this energy is happening. It has to go somewhere. The architect laughs because he gets the last dig in as it ruptures everything around it and stuff. Hush is involved, but clearly Hush isn't the person who's really behind the whole thing.
Good.
Most of this issue is centered around Catwoman, and she sneaks into, with the help of some street urchins, she sneaks into Blackgate, and you find out that she's been raised by the Lion. What's his name? I'm not 100% sure. I don't think that she is. I'm not 100% sure if that's actually her father or if Falcone's her father. I'm confused now on that. They didn't make it really solid as to which person she is by. But he basically says that, look, you have your real name, and your real name is Power. You need to step up and take on your real name because your real name has enough lineage in Gotham that you can tie all the families back together and stop this chaos that's ensuing, this whole gang war thing.
Mhm.
Which, of course, is the setup for, most of us know that in her own book and from that, Batman 25 or whatever issue that was, that hinted at the future, she is the ultimate gang boss at some point in the book. And so it's setting that up, but it's setting it up in the fact that her actual name isn't, Selene Kyle, that's a name she took on, that her name is one of these other names, and I think her dad is the Lion. I think that's technically her dad. And so she can use his last name, and everybody will fall in line supposedly behind her and the name. That's what the Lion implies. He's like, I can't escape from here. I've got too much baggage, and I'm better off seeming dead forever. But you need to go on and take on the thing. That's the main crux of this issue. Plus, everything around that Wayne Tower being leveled is, of course, going to look bad on Wayne. That. Yeah. The rich stay protected and healthy while the people around them are being killed. But.
So this is leading into that new team taking over Catwoman, I think in October, right?
Yes, October.
Do you know anything about that team? I'm totally blanking on who they were, but I'm still apprehensive about.
I can't remember the writer's name. The writer is new to comics, but has written lots of novels. I think from Damien from Sleepy Reader 66 talking about them. They're under the umbrella or friends with Maneva, the guy who wrote Dial H.
Mm-hmm.
Not that means anything, but I don't know if that's.
I'm a big fan of China, actually.
So I don't know if that's how this person got a foot in the door. I have no idea. So I tell you the truth, because I don't know anything about them and they're fresh to writing comics and whatnot, I'm actually more excited to read the book because I think we need more of that, quite honestly. I'd like to see some of these people who've been writing the same books forever maybe go away and us get somebody new with a fresh idea, and hopefully they're allowed to tell a fresh idea.
Yeah.
And this is a different take on Catwoman. I'm curious to see how this is going to turn out, how she's going to handle dealing with being a crime boss and all that entails, because there's a lot of baggage there. I mean, she's a person who likes to play the game. She likes to steal stuff and play that part of the game. But this whole other extortion, all the other crazy stuff that goes on, how is she gonna handle all that?
Which she's normally not a big fan of, mind
Right.
you. She's not a fan of that kind of picking on the small guy, if you will.
Right.
It's sounding like this is going to be pretty much like a Green Arrow style reboot, which I'm totally for. I mean,
Yeah.
the book needs it badly.
Yeah. I've always liked the Catwoman character because
Yep.
for a lot of years she's kind of walked this interesting gray area that to me seems much more, I don't know if realistic's the word I want to use, but it definitely
Interesting.
right. It seems. I mean, it's not so simple. It's not so black and white that Superman and Batman seem to operate in, or the bad guys that clearly that's all they are is bad guys. She's kind of that in between space.
Human, almost.
Right. So
Yeah.
I'm actually looking forward to that. So
Yeah.
curious to see how that all really ties in there and whatnot. I don't know that I accept just because she has a last name of some lineage gang lord that's going to instantly make everybody fall in line behind her, though. I'm having a hard time buying that.
It would have been a lot cooler if she had to earn it, which she has kind of the gumption, the guts to do so. Go out
Sure.
and take the streets herself. Be like, you work for me now? She totally could have done that.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that she won't ultimately do that, and I guess the name will help if she actually goes out and puts her foot down and decides she's going to, and it implies at the end of this, she walks off wearing a trench coat as opposed to her costume, and it implies that, she's going to take on this mantle in some fashion. So I don't know if it'll really tell us in Batman Eternal, that whole thing, or if we'll actually get that, in her own book. I'll be curious to see where her own book takes off. If it takes off with her already established as this, or she's going to have to establish that in her own book. So,
Yeah.
which is a lot to take on for a new writer, but I think it could be cool.
Yeah.
I'm still liking the Batman Eternal. I mean, I know you dropped it and are going to pick it up in trade or whatever, and not pick it up in singles. It's entertaining enough and is happening quick enough that I'm having fun consuming it. Surprisingly, I'm actually glad I'm not getting into the other weekly books because I probably like all of them too. To be quite honest,
You would.
I know
So, you would.
So I'll get them in trade as to save my pocketbook some. But I thought I was not going to enjoy a weekly comic, but I get a kick out of it because you get the story often enough that it just it feels like it keeps moving. Even though probably reading it in trade, this would have flat spots in it.
Yeah.
If a book's flat, the next book comes out the next week, and usually there's somebody else writing it and it picks up or whatever, and so I don't feel them quite so bad, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know how you're going to avoid that Earth 2 book. I really don't. It's
Well, I know it's gonna take everything else up, isn't it? It's gonna be the book, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the actual Earth 2 book's just gonna fall by the wayside.
That's the only sad thing is Earth 2, it seems like they're kind of gutting. And if you're reading Future's End, they're gutting it. They're gutting Earth 2, it really feels like. It's like they got this cool kind of rookie over here kind of doing its own amazing thing, and they're like, why don't we just bring that in?
Why don't we mine it for all it's worth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Essentially doing what they're doing to the Ultimate Universe in Marvel right now. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bummer. So what other Future End books do you pick up? I got one more DC I can talk about, but
Batman. So I got Detective last week.
Uh-huh.
They're supposed to be taking place relatively at the same time. They're two vastly different characters here. I know that's a mild complaint because most people either read Detective or Batman. They don't read both, being sarcastic right now. But basically what I liked about this was it was a one-shot, and it was kind of a different take, because usually Batman is training the next guy that's going to take up his mantle. You always got that feeling. It was never really... sometimes it was implied, but it was really just kind of there, like Robin is going to be the guy when Batman can't lace up the boots anymore. Someone else is going to come in and take it up. And this takes a very different approach on that. I don't know if you've seen the cover, but it has several Batmen on it,
Right.
and he's kind of standing behind him. He has that back brace because he's had a entanglement with Bane at some point. You're not quite sure what happened, but it's finally taken. The back injuries have finally taken. And instead of training the Robin, even though there's Robins in the other one, he's cloning himself to make a new Bruce Wayne and go from there. And I kind of like that to a degree. I wouldn't want a series with that, but I kind of like that concept. Like, of course, Bruce would say the only person that can replace me is me. And I kind of like that concept that he really goes that paranoid. He gets in a fight with Luthor because Luthor is cloning Bizarro again. Apparently Bizarro's dead. And so he wants to get that technology, and that's kind of this whole story is him breaking into LexCorp, knowing his way around, getting the cloning technology to make another Bruce. So for what it is, it's good, but again, none of it's going to matter, and they really make you feel that way because they're not going to have Batman with a back spine brace making clones in the main story. It's not going to happen. And the funny thing is Batman and Robin comes out next week, and it seems like they're being more consistent with this, but I'm seeing that there's a Robin now, so it's kind of, well, wait a minute, why are you cloning yourself if you have a Robin? And
Right.
They did touch in Batgirl about Bane breaking Batman's back again. That was mentioned again in the Batgirl Futures End crossover. And I think at the end of the Evil Takeover, the series that just happened, or
Forever Evil.
Forever Evil, yeah, sorry, the crossover. They meant I think Bizarro dies in that, and that's where he starts cloning the new Bizarro. So
yeah,
right.
See, but I'm going to be a grumpy old comic book fan here. I'm sick of old dying Batman. I'm sick of young just starting out Batman. Can't we just have a good Batman story? It's been done to death. I'm sick of it. Stop it. I get it. He's old and he's still trying, or he's young and he's naive and he's trying to figure it out. It's been done. Let's tell a different story with Batman.
Agreed.
It's kind of
agreed. They agreed. They've definitely mined both ends of that. We should just have some Batman stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
And save new Batman and old Batman just for the movies. When they go to reboot that again, they can do the naive Batman and the old Batman, and then have one good movie in the middle again.
Sure.
An Oreo, if you will.
Yeah.
But I'll just talk about one more DC since no one else has any more. Or do you have another one?
I got one more.
Okay, good.
Superman Unchained, number 8. Number 7 came out, I think, in 2013, maybe. Yep. Okay, it hasn't been that long, but it's been a long time. I don't know what. Be quite honest, it's probably been 3 or 4 months. Obviously, Jim Lee, Scott Snyder are busy guys, and this isn't a priority for whatever reason. So here's number 8. Number 9 is the last issue. This issue is purely a slugfest between Superman and Wraith. If anybody's been keeping up on the book or has any knowledge of it, Wraith is a Superman-like character who came to Earth like way before Superman showed up, and has been secretly doing government Superman-like things. I mean, he actually is the bomb that was dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima is actually this Wraith character, just to give you some history on the guy. That's and a lot of technology that Earth has and the United States have is stuff that came down with this Wraith character. He showed up in a rocket, crash landed way before Superman did. Basically, so he has basically Superman's powers, the same sort of powers, but he's been practicing for 5 or 6 decades before Superman, so he's fine-tuned. He's the superior fighter, so he gets in a fight with Superman in this story. He's going to kill Superman, basically. And Superman's trying to figure out how to beat him when he's faster, bigger, stronger, better than he is. And he kind of goes through the mindset of, okay, how would Bruce fight this guy? He'd fight dirty, and he attempts to do that. I find out in this issue that Superman can't breathe in space.
That's new.
That's totally new to me. Now, I was talking with Carlos. Carlos is in the comments right now. He said, because he's a big Superman fan, he says that in the New 52 that Superman's supposed to be able to breathe in space. Well, in this issue, they imply that he can't, because he knocks Wraith up into the air, up into space, punching him in the chest and the throat, so he can't get a breath, and so he's hoping to suffocate him. Wraith does something to stop that from happening, and then Wraith goes, well, I'm going to turn this around, and pushes him back down into the earth, and busts a bunch of Superman's ribs and puts him under the water to drown Superman. So I didn't know that. I remember as a kid Superman flying around in space for forever, talking. I don't know how you talk if you can't breathe, right?
Well, yeah, there's no air. But
Right.
I think even in Justice League, this current run of Justice League, when they're working on the Watchtower, I think he's even out in space for a minute or two, isn't he? Maybe I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm assuming he can hold his breath for a long time. I'm trying to remember the Supergirl books that I've read.
She
She's in
can.
she's in space there too, and I don't remember her having to hold her breath the whole time she's in space. So that confused me, that whole part of it. She even goes through the what would Wonder Woman do if she was fighting him, fight like a warrior or whatever. At any rate, they end up going to the center of the Earth where the electromagnetic fields are all wonky, and that messes with Rafe because Rafe uses all this kind of high-tech science stuff to be a badass, and he beats Wraith up. And they find out that there's this crystal that they've been fighting over this entire time. There's some armada that's hiding behind the sun, and it's going to come down and it's going to attack everybody, and this whole alien invasion is going to happen. Rafe's people, this is all set up. They basically gave the Earth all this technology so that Earth could get up to a certain speed, and then they're going to come in and rape the planet, basically.
Yeah.
Lex Luthor shows up because Lex Luthor knows this is all happening, and has some super serum that Superman can take, and it'll make Superman into a living bomb bigger than the Hiroshima Nagasaki bomb. And Superman's supposed to take this, be the hero, fly up and blow up the entire space armada. Otherwise, all Earth is going to be destroyed. Yeah, I'm not impressed. I haven't been impressed. The only reason I'm still getting it is because I know there's only 9 issues and it's done, and I was halfway through it by the time I decided, you know what, this is not good. And it, of course, taking forever to come out doesn't help the story either. I mean, I guess you're like, what's
Did they have
that?
to steal that the Falcon going up and exploding? Is that maybe where they got this idea from?
I don't know. Yeah, from Captain America. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm betting this storyline was written last year, so
Yeah. No, what you got to understand about this is it's been written for trade, hands down. That's the feeling I got as I was reading it. I'm like, this is a trade if I've ever seen one.
sure.
I almost think they're trying to say this doesn't take place in the New 52 universe to a
Yeah.
degree.
It's all the standard beats. This was, of course, the climax of the big fight between the bad guy. There's one issue, and in this final issue, he's going to clean it all up in some sense or another, however that's going to be. Pretty typical in every way, shape, and form superhero story from Scott Snyder. There's nothing in this that's that special, other than if you want to look at the Wraith character and say, well, he's kind of a unique character in and of himself, but he's kind of meaningless to Superman. Other than there's this speech in there about how Superman's better than him because Superman actually operates in the light, knows what it's like to be a real hero. Rafe's just a function of the government. I mean, but beyond that, there's nothing so far through 8 issues, in my opinion, that makes this anything special. Yeah, it's Jim Lee's art if you like Jim Lee, but there's nothing special in it either. It's not anything incredible. It's Jim Lee artwork. But, yeah.
Yeah, that kind of bummed me out, and I remember I just quit. Like, it was so funny because I don't remember actively dropping that. I just remember I was like, oh yeah, that book.
Yeah.
And I think if I was doing what you were doing, I'd probably keep up with it where you order them in advance. But
Right.
yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, I was already 6 issues in. I thought at that point there's only 9, so whatever.
Yeah.
By the time I completely forget about the book, another one shows up. So
So do you have to order it? You have it ordered up now through the end now, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wonder how that works.
Yeah, I mean, I probably ordered issue 9 6 months ago, though. I mean, that's how far behind they are on putting the comic out itself. I mean, so, yeah. Anyway,
Well,
you got another Futures End book? Is that right?
I have the main one, but I like this. I don't want to spoil it for you because I know you're going to read it. So
Well, let's talk about it some, though. I mean, right, so there's... Last time I remember anybody talking about it, there was, a planet that is Brainiac? No. What's the planet? There's a planet that somebody...
there's a planet that basically... So that's actually something I'm not as fond of in this story.
Oh,
so there's
okay.
a planet where the main Brainiac is now. You thought all those other Brainiacs were bad. This is where
Right.
the main one is. And he's got a plan. And he took out Stormwatch. And it's like, all right.
Okay.
The only reason why people are liking that, and the reason why I like it, is it involves Frankenstein and Amethyst and those cool characters and Hawkman.
Right.
I like
Right.
that aspect of it, but it's kind of, you could have done a better job with this. It could have been just
That's a cool group. That's a
Yeah.
cool group, though. Amethyst, Hawkman, and Frankenstein.
Well-
I'd be all over that book.
the other thing I'm liking about this is you're kind of learning about the automated aspects of Stormwatch. They're basically, this computer comes to life. Stormwatch is wiped out, and Ray Palmer's in there, who hasn't really had anything going on outside of Agent of Shade in the New 52, really.
Right. Right.
And it opens up and it says, you're now going to be the head of Stormwatch. We're going to have you run Stormwatch. What do you think? And he's like, oh, I can't. And he's panicking. I liked that aspect because he was like the reluctant hero. Because if you've ever read old school Adam, he was always kind of, oh, get on it. Oh, and
Right. Right.
always very gung-ho about things. And I like this kind of apprehensive, kind of like, being a superhero destroyed my life. I don't think I can do that. I took almost a government gig to get away from that. I don't want to do that. And I'm kind of liking that. And he's kind of like, what will Shade think? I'm liking that aspect.
Yeah.
What I liked about this is, I'm not going to spoil the Superman story too much, but Lois Lane was finally Lois Lane again in this. And I was like, yes! It's the Lois Lane I liked. It's like, you know what? I'm going to do my thing. Screw you guys. And I was like, it's about time. Because she was, throughout this, is kind of, well, I do have a moral responsibility. And it's like, no, that's not how she is in a lot of times. A lot of times she's like, this superhero thing's kind of effed my world up too. I'm going to look out for me. I
Right.
like that. And, yeah, it's good. I don't want to spoil it, though, because I want you to check it out.
Cool. Well, I definitely. The trades start coming out of those. I'm definitely picking it up. I mean, I've always been excited for that book. I just didn't want to pay the price of a weekly book because I knew I was getting the Batman weekly, and so that's the one I chose not to get weekly. So.
I thought I'd check out the first couple of issues and then be like, all right, I'll get the trade. I'll bite the bullet and pay twice for 2 issues or something. But I ended up really liking it. And I know DeCosta's probably watching this, so I have to talk about this, and this will be my last DVC.
Oh,
The Suicide Squad? Yeah.
I know you're not a fan.
The new Suicide Squad? The extra large Suicide Squad? Yeah.
that line's cringy.
It is horrible.
What I like about this, and why I hope this doesn't become a series, is they really take the idea of what the government would honestly do here to its fullest extreme, and a lot of the members of the team essentially become experiments and become something that they're like, let's try, we're going to try and give superpowers to someone or test out, if we can, who we're going to try it on. Well, these people that are expendable and we can't do anything with. And you really see how that kind of broke the group apart. Amanda Waller turns into the badass that she always was. I don't think this is where the series should go. I think we're still only 2 issues in the main series, so I'm still on the fence.
Oh, I can't believe you're on the fence. Oh.
I thought the second issue was better than the first. That's the best I can do on that.
Yeah, there was nowhere to go but up.
But this is a good one-shot by itself, but if you don't check it out, you're not missing anything. Biggest problem with these Futures End tie-ins, they have no consequence to the main series. Neither did really the Villains books last year. The only ones that really did were the Zero issues 2 years ago. But
right.
Yeah, it's an interesting one-shot, and I like the idea that it shows that if you really took the idea of the government just having these expendable kind of meta-humans, what they would honestly do with them, and it really kind of looks into that. There's a little bit of social criticism there, but it's not something I'm saying, go out and pick it up. The only one I would tell you to go out and pick up is the Batgirl one.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Cool. That sounds cool. Yeah, I don't know. That Suicide Squad, I'm not excited by that.
It's not the team that you want. It really just feels kind of campy almost in a lot of ways. And
that's the problem. It's not even that it's not the team I want. I mean, there's some makeup in that team I think is weird, but they could do something with it. And to me, it just doesn't feel like they're doing anything with it. That's my problem, I guess. Is it just? And that first issue was incredibly campy. I mean, it was a joke, but it wasn't telling good jokes. I mean, if you're gonna go that route, they should really go that route, and it wasn't. So that's what made it seem so bad. It's like I didn't know, was I supposed to be taking that serious, or was it really supposed to be, was there supposed to be a laugh? Was there supposed to be a laugh track along with
with XL.
with XL. I mean, so
That was terrible.
Yeah.
I don't remember much else about that issue except for that, and that's a bad sign. To me, the Suicide Squad should always be an edgier book. You have
Right.
all these villains. I mean, I get sometimes when they don't want Batman to be a little bit edgier, Superman, obviously, but when you have supervillains, you can kind of go a little bit more in that direction, and I think they should do that with that. It was kind of my problem why I dropped
Right.
the initial run.
Well,
I mean, yeah, they're killers. I mean, this group of people are straight up killers. They're not accidental murderers. They're not crimes of passion murderers. These are either completely psychotic
Or trained.
people or trained, hardened killers. I mean, that's what they are, and that's what some of that book should be about. It's like the problem was, I think, with the kind of off subject, but the problem with the whole Suicide Squad is people tried billing it as being the next Secret Six, as opposed to keeping it as the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
That book, if you're going to call it Suicide Squad, should be the Suicide Squad doing the Suicide Squad things, not trying to make it like what Secret Six was, because Secret Six was kind of its own thing. I mean, yeah, it had villains in it. Those people were hard-boiled killers too, but it was telling a different story than what Suicide should have been telling.
And some key things with Suicide Squad is it needs to be C and D list characters, and they need to kill them off every so often too. I mean, that was the good parts about it, to show that it is a squad where they can squirrel them out, they can kill them, or make an example of them. And the C and D list gives them the freedom to make these really great characters because they're not written very well in other comics. So this gives them a chance to give them life and breath and explore. And I think that's the things that I always look for in those kind of comics.
As much as I love the character, Harley Quinn has to leave because I think the direction they're trying to take her overall in DC right now is why they're kind of holding back on that. They want her to be kind of this campy, comedic character, which she's not, but I'm not married to the character. Do whatever you want with her.
Right.
But I think they got to take her out because they don't want her to be in a quote-unquote edgy book, which she should be more than comfortable to be in. I don't see why they'd be worried about her being different in her main book than in this.
Yeah.
But,
well, and the thing is that talked with DaCosta about this and stuff, that in there have been times in the Suicide Squad book, even this current run, that she's been that edgy, crazy, but diabolical in her craziness, not just goofy Fruit Loops, but scary kind of crazy.
when she's messing with Deadshot.
Right, which is awesome. That stuff's great. That's the Harley Quinn that I want to read, and that's why I don't read the other book. I get why people like that book and enjoy it. That's not for me. That's not the Harley Quinn that I want to read. So, and I don't see why they can't do both.
Yeah.
Did either of you see Assault on Arkham then?
I did.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
What did you think then, CDC?
Going into it, I really enjoyed it. In fact, because I didn't know anything about it. I thought it was just gonna be a little Batman anime thing. It's a Suicide Squad movie. That's essentially what it is. And I like the nods and winks to early Batman movies. Like there's a lot of Batman Returns hints there. Like there's a scene where Harley Quinn goes up and puts her face against the window and it matches like Catwoman does. Yeah. There's a scene where someone throws a grappling hook into the wall and the guy goes, "You missed!" and he pulls on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm in love with this movie. But they do take characters and kill them. And I was like, okay, this is really good for what it is. I wondered how much they bit themselves on the rear end by doing this, because I don't know how many casual fans are going to watch it and enjoy it as much as someone that's a fan of Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Batman's in it, the Joker's in it to kind of pad that a little bit, but overall the storytelling is done about them, and I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't mind that being the direction they went with this book.
Yes, yeah. And I just loved it because each character, it felt like they cared about the characters, who they were, and they flushed them out. They really filled them up. So
it was kind of weird because I didn't know it was taking place in the Arkham universe for the video game and whatnot. But it was weird that they kind of tied in Deadshot and Harley Quinn's relationship, and then having Joker come in and them kind of go at it, and the jealousy factor. I was like, this is really well done. Whoever wrote this, get them writing Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
And the fact that right away they go, no, this isn't what you're thinking. They kill a character fairly early on.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa, okay.
Yep.
And it's not like off screen you hear a gunshot. This is
Yeah.
a graphic death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. Because typically you think a cartoon that they release, yeah, they might show a little blood here and there. This guy gets murdered. And you're like, okay, I'm in. Yeah, I really liked it.
All right.
So, any other DC books you want to talk about?
I'm good.
Okay, well, let's.
One question for you guys: have either of you picked up or seen the DC Origins? Like they give you like 3 origins for the new people.
Secret Origins is it
Secret
called?
Origins, yeah.
I haven't been reading any of that.
Is that to
No.
get everybody familiarized with the change from old 52 to new? Do you know?
Well, they're used. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the rationale is behind the book. I mean, they're you know, Secret Origins used to be out a long time ago. I mean, that's a title that's been around before, so it's not like it's something new as far as that goes. I mean, I just think it's curious that in some cases they're telling some of the stories they're telling, like, you know, they're telling the Wonder Woman's origin when. Well, I mean, we just had those Zero issues. I guess they've been a couple years ago now. It feels like they weren't that long ago.
That was kind of my thing. It was like
So
Zero
that's-
issues.
So I didn't get it for that. I think it's curious, like especially in the case of Wonder Woman, just because my own cynicism around the current title. We're getting this origin, and then I feel like the whole thing's going to get whitewashed once the new creative team gets in the book. None of that stuff's going to matter anyway. So why spend the time to tell us the origin? I just think it's because somebody out there is fascinated by origin stories. It's not me, so I am completely the wrong audience for that. I mean, I'm curious to find out about why a person's the way they are, but I don't want an origin story, if that makes sense. I much rather have me organically learn about their past as they're going through their normal, whatever their day-to-day business is.
Yeah.
Have the occasional flashback or whatever that fills in, informs me as to why the character is. I don't need the, you know, he wandered down into the subway and got on a car and it took him to a wizard and the wizard told him to say this magic word and suddenly he's whatever he is. I don't need that. I don't need Shazam and as a character. So I'm never going to pick those books up because I don't have a genuine interest in being told the origin story.
All right.
I mean, if they took that angle, I mean, that's getting into the New 52 in and of itself, but there aren't that many different origins in the New 52. Like they're slight, if anything, really.
Right.
So any character that I'm going to want to know their origin, I'm probably going to be reading from issue 1 at this point. So it's not really something that would draw me in either. I mean, at the end of the day, if I want to know how Green Lantern got the way it is, if I didn't know, I wouldn't go pick up a comic. I'd go on Wikipedia, to be honest, and just read about it and be like, okay. So it didn't really interest me. I think nowadays they're really getting into running out of ideas and going to that origin route a lot more often.
If you want to look at it from a real cynical standpoint, it's them trying to pull some of their old universe back into the 52 because the 52 is so shallow that there's no depth, so you need to start putting something in it. That's what it feels like. Lots of times they're introducing these characters and not doing anything with them. Doom Patrol, you know, whoever else, they just kind of, if you'll like that last issue of Batgirl that Gail wrote of the regular series, where she threw out all the, you know, you got to see, you know, the Huntress used it a different way. You got to see Misfit was thrown in. You know, these are, you know, they're just kind of being thrown. They're not being used, but let's just get them back in the universe. So the universe gets filled back up again because it's so shallow right now. And I'm not necessarily saying shallow as in vacant and who cares. There's just there's no depth to the universe because they gutted it.
This is what drives me nuts, though, because what attracted me to the New 52 was, if I was the writer on a book, I'd be like, so wait, all these characters have a blank slate that you're going to say they don't exist anymore and we can bring them in and reimagine them. You would have years of material to reimagine these characters and bring it in. And instead we're going 5 years ahead so we can just bring all this stuff in and give you a history that we can draw off of.
Right. They have no patience for it because it takes years to do that, though, right?
Yeah.
If you want to reintroduce these characters in an organic way that makes them cool, it takes years to do that, doesn't it? I mean, at least it takes 6 months, I would think. You got to at least get 6 issues in on something for the character to have any breadth and depth to them, I think. And there's no time for that. There's no time for that because we're in an instant gratification kind of a world, and marketing says it has to be instantaneous. There's no time for that. Let's just get them out there and then see what we can do with them. Every once in a while we luck out, and we get those quiet moments to give us something else, but it's few and far between. That's which I've talked about, I think, many times in different places. Is the biggest problem with the New 52 is the fact that they're not allowing that to happen. We're not getting those moments to actually have to catch our breaths and have those kinds of moments as opposed to just action beats. It's all action beats. That's
Stephanie Brown, perfect example of that. She literally, from not even one issue to the next, she disappears. And then she comes back, and somehow she's a trained superhero. Doesn't have any of the quirks or rookie mistakes. She's just all of a sudden in the costume, full page, coming at you. And actually, that disappointed me more than anything. Right. That instant gratification. It was like, no, I want to see her learn and become spoiler, not just be spoiler all of a sudden. Right. She has no reason. Yeah. She has no reason to do any of this. I get the motivation for her to be like, my dad's a piece of trash. He tried to kill me. I should go about means to do that. But she never saw Robin out somewhere or something like that and said, maybe that's the avenue I take. Maybe that's the way I go. Right. I wear a costume and take on an identity. There was none of that. She's just in the costume all of a sudden with the smoke pellets flying. And I was like, really?
Right. And the bow staff whipping around. You're like going, what? Yeah. She learned that in the library? Awesome. I'm going to the library.
Yeah. It just seems like they're afraid that if we don't get it out there immediately and let it build slowly, the audience will lose interest and walk away. And it's like, I think that's why the audience is walking away a lot more often, is because you're not giving it that slow, nice build. And you don't have to do that with everyone. I mean, Clue Master doesn't have to have this huge origin. But some of the more staple characters, I think, let's have fun with them. You have a brand new universe that you created. Take some liberties with them. You already got rid of those fans. They're like, you're changing it? Oh, I can't read any DC anymore. Gone. They're gone. So let's work with this new canvas we have. Yeah. They're not willing to do it.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about a comic, or at least I'm going to talk about a comic here later on from another company that is doing just that, is taking the time to give us that, and it makes it an awesome comic, I think, in comparison. I mean, it's the fault of the 52 right now. Not that I by any means hate DC. Obviously, I'm the DC guy or whatever. Love the characters and whatnot. It feels to me like they could be doing a better job of telling us an enriching story as opposed to just being the action beats. I'm curious though, because it feels like to some degree DC might be cooling their jets some. There's some books that are going to be coming out that maybe are going to give us a chance to explore some of that. We'll see if that's the case, or if at the end of the day the ultimate top-down editorial that's going to come down is going to say, no, you still have to stick to this DC formula that they have going with the New 52 and possibly wrecks it all, but we'll see.
Yeah. Do you want to even dive into the Justice League story arc that's coming up? They announced that they're going to...
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So, essentially, for those of you who didn't read the first arc of Justice League, it was them going against Darkseid, and it was, for what it's worth, it was decent. It was okay.
I like the idea of it. I mean, that's the idea behind it is that's what basically had them
makes them a team.
Them coining superhero as a word and a rationale for them to get together. The greater evil, all that. I'm behind that. I don't know that I executed really great, but I'm behind the idea of that. Yeah.
But this really looks so. Basically, his revenge. I almost wanted to call this Darkseid's Revenge Part 2 or something. Like an '80s movie title. It's essentially just that coming back. He's going to come back, and this time he means business, or this time it's personal. I think what they're going to try and do is say, well, we're not just going to include the Justice League. We've introduced a lot of heroes since then. So we're going to have them come in, and that's going to make it interesting. And I'm telling you right now, That mentality killed Justice League Dark for me. I won't be surprised if that book doesn't last very much longer because of that. I don't know anyone that's still reading that on a regular basis. And I think that's going to be a book killer, the way they're going to go about it. And you know that's how they're going to go about it. They're going to interrupt all these books and tie them into that. And so I don't look forward to that. And it might be a good story, but I think at the same time it's going to kill some books.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can't tell that kind of a story without it interrupting the books, right? Yep. I mean, if you're having this greater universe, each book isn't its own tight little thing. You can't have Darkseid, doing an invasion version of an attack on Earth without it affecting everybody in some sense. You can't skip that, can you? If you're going to have this cohesive universe, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, that whole cohesive universe kind of thing, anyway. But
I do feel that's what made Lemire's run of Green Lantern great, though, is that it didn't get bothered by these. And I think it was the same way with kind of Wonder Woman, too, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, you mean Green Arrow, right?
Oh, sorry, Green Arrow, yes.
Yeah, see, they can do that, and that's what I think the Justice League should be. This is actually going to be the answer to one of his questions in his video, was I think the Justice League should be a book to advertise other books, not other books advertise the Justice League. Yeah. I think it's a big mistake. Justice League sells well, so why don't we have that version of Green Arrow show up for an issue or two and go, hey, this is what this character's all about, and he has his own book. Why don't you go check that out? Not make it that you have to buy one or the other. But really, the Justice League should be selling you on other books. And I feel like a lot of these events go, no, you should stop reading what you're reading and read this event. And it's like, no, that's
certainly Forever Evil did that.
Yeah, it killed Justice League Dark.
Yeah, well, it killed a lot of stuff, or stuff was created specifically for it.
But on top of that, this is clearly going to lead into the Earth 2 event that they're doing, where they're going to basically gut Earth 2, do whatever they're going to do with it. And so it's like, why am I reading the Justice League when it's essentially just one prolonged event after another? They never have it where just something comes out of the ocean. I would be happy with that at this point. And they just take care of it in one issue. I'd be like, all right, great. Let's see. Oh, and Wonder Woman finds out a little bit more about herself? Awesome. Let's do that. Great. You're not seeing that anymore. It's just, her interaction with the Flash makes her think about something differently. Give me that.
Yeah. You didn't get that with the whole magic ping pong table thing?
I need to read into that a little bit more. There's some symbolism there.
Okay, yeah. Jesus. Oh, I'm glad I'm done with that book. So,
yeah.
As much as I hate to say it, I'm not upset that I've decided I'm not reading that book anymore.
Well, okay, I didn't get to talk to you about this.
Because I don't think you're gonna get your cool Lex Luthor story that you were thinking when we first heard Lex Luthor. We're not going to get that. We're not going to get that at all.
No. See, because I agreed with you, even though I was trying to not agree with you, that it's a matter of time with him. But I wanted something in the meantime. Meantime where he gives it a shot, or at least is like, maybe I can use this to get my ends, to get to where I'm going.
Yeah.
And no, it's just, I didn't get to talk to you about the Doom Patrol on camera yet, though.
Right.
What was the point?
There wasn't one.
What was the point?
Right.
What did their interaction with the Doom Patrol add to that story? Could it have been a generic villain group? Yes.
Yeah.
That was the problem. That's not going to lead to any kind of book, and if it does, I'm kind of on the fence of whether I'd pick it up or not. Because this was a generic group with Doom Patrol paint on it.
Mm-hmm.
All it was. And that's kind of been the problem with the Justice League, is it's just a series of events that don't really tie together. I wouldn't be surprised if in the next one, Wolverine shows up for an issue, and you're like, wait, isn't he from a different... and then goes away.
He dies, yeah.
Yeah, that's why he's dying, yeah. Good call.
Really good Justice League stuff goes very character in. A lot of people think it's wide scope, and it's really big, and it's like, oh, all these heroes have to come in together. But what it is it's these characters from these different walks of life coming together and interacting and going, oh, how's Batman going to interact with him? How's that going to... And you don't see that. Sorry, that's a rant I've been wanting to get out for a while.
Oh, it's so true. You're not going to get any argument from me whatsoever. That's the biggest problem with the thing. I mean, for sure. That's just, yeah, like I said, done with that. So, other DC news besides, of course, this next event that's going to hit, that's going to be Darkseid, which intrigues me in some sense because I love the Fourth World characters. I want that to be cool. I want to hear about the anti-life and all of that. I mean, I dig all that, but I'm just not excited by that whatsoever. I saw that and I just kind of went, ugh,
Yeah.
for the reason to stay as far away as possible. Other news that I can think of that's kind of around the DC universe, of course, there's serious talk about TNT buying a pilot of the Titans live action
Really?
TV show. Yeah, with Dick Grayson as Nightwing in it, and for sure Starfire, and for sure Raven.
So kind of the new Teen Titans like in the 80s. A
Yeah.
little bit. That's
Yeah.
I'm not having any problem with that.
Well, I'm excited by the idea of it. It's just amazing that
Yeah.
that it would even be.
Yeah.
I live in fear of all of these shows we're getting now that it's just going to be a disaster. But I'll watch it. I mean, there's no way I'm not going to, because I like that team of the Teen Titans a lot. So
Yeah.
And on TNT, you think that's a good thing then?
yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, they don't have a record of anything necessarily in particular. They've got good shows and they've got shows that aren't good shows. They're not. To me, they feel less like the CW has a tone. Every single show on the CW has a tone. As much as Green Arrow wants to get away from it to some degree, it's still it still hangs there. I'm curious about the Flash, because the Flash feels like a much more up tempo and bright show.
Yeah.
How it's going to function on the CW, because it's got all the CW shows have a feel to them. TNT doesn't have that.
No.
Their shows are the shows that have been produced for their network are all over the map as far as a tone. So I don't know what so honestly I don't know what to expect. I expect it to be a Teen Titans show that they're going to do whatever they want to do in. So that could be really cool, or it could be like the Teen Titan book itself. It could be really awesome, or it could be those issues that you just.
Yeah. Are either of you guys watching Falling Skies, their sci-fi one?
No.
I did a little bit, but I had to make a decision between that and Walking Dead.
All right.
Because I felt like it was kind of the same tone. Basically, society and the world is done for, and how do we carry on as human beings? I will say that it wasn't that bad from what I saw.
Well, no, and from what I'm hearing, I mean, and how long it's run, that's the thing that gives me hope for Titans, because I was like, will they back it? Will they aim it correctly? And it seems like it. It seems like it will get a cult following, and that will grow, and it'll be the thing that they, march onto every TV show. And
Sure.
Well, as long as the budget isn't too expensive, and I don't know, this day and age of special effects, how expensive it's going to be to show Starfire flying around and blasting things with green blasts.
Yeah.
And the effect. I mean, Nightwing's going to be easy because he's a dude with some gadgets. Raven with some of her stuff, how expensive it's going to be to do that. If it's not too expensive of a show, it doesn't have to have the same kind of viewers that NBC or CBS or those channels that they think they have to have. They don't have, because it's a smaller station. They don't have to have the same level of viewership for them to have a successful show, right? So as long as it doesn't get expensive, it could have a long life.
And I guess after they decided to go with the Flash, I feel that they must figure there is a budget, or we are at that technology stage that it's cheap enough, or just where they want it to be.
Right.
Wait, you never saw the old Flash TV show?
Yeah.
Come on!
Yeah.
That costume was a bit too tight, but other than that, it was great.
Well, how the Flash is depicted on the Superboy show that was recently.
See, that's the thing that these kids these days don't understand. We had superhero shows, and they stunk. They were terrible.
Really bad.
The Superboy show and Flash, and so you guys are spoiled. Because Arrow, I'm catching up on. I'm like, this is actually a really good show.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm surprised at how good it is.
Yeah, the last season of Arrow was a lot of fun because it really started feeling like a superhero show. So
yeah. Well, yeah, that first season, you're like, wow, they're going edgy here. What is this? And then character development. He goes, I can't be like that anymore. I can't do this. I gotta be on the right side of things. And going that way would be easier, but I have to have some kind of moral ground here. And I liked that. I thought that was good character development.
Yeah.
Any other DC news? I can't think of anything else.
The Batmobile was shown.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. Did
It's
it look like
basically Tumblr 2.
Was it black and have fins on it?
It was grayish. It was a Tumblr 2, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did see some people posting, I can't tell the front from the ass end of it. So.
I'll look it up. I'm sure it's on Twitter somewhere, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a tank. Basically it's a tank.
Yeah.
So do you think that's really cool because that makes sense, or you think it sucks because it should be a car? I don't know.
I'm kind of wondering what kind of movie we're going to get at the end of the day here with all the stuff they're announcing for it. It's kind of like, is this just going to be like, boom, there's a movie. There you go.
It's going to be a Justice League. It's going to be a Justice League movie. Just like the Justice League comic book.
Yeah.
Are you getting where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing.
That's what it's going to be.
When they said
as soon as they started naming other characters beyond Batman, beyond Superman and Batman, and as soon as they started naming other characters, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a Justice League movie, and I'm not saying that I'm excited it's going to be a Justice League movie. It's going to be a Justice League movie like the comic book.
Whether you liked the Avengers or not, they did it the right way. That was exactly how you want to do that. Where they announced Wonder Woman. I'm cool with that. Maybe she shows up kind of halfway through or towards the end. Kind of shows you that this is a bigger universe than you think it's going to be.
Right.
But when they started doing Aquaman and Cyborg and all these, I'm like, what? Who's the villain? Lex Luthor's going to go up against all of these people in just one shot? And it's the guy from the Facebook movie? No, I'm not buying it.
That's gonna be awesome.
I like Zombieland. I shouldn't say that. But.
I mean, I'm gonna see it. Don't get me wrong. I'll probably go see it opening night. I'm that kind of a fool, but.
See, you are with movies like I am with comics. That's the problem. I need to be more like you with comics. You need to be more like me with movies.
There we go. Yeah.
Where you're like, no, that looks like it's gonna stink. I'm not touching that. And I'm like, yeah, #1.
All over it. Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on to Marvel books. Let's move on to Marvel. Do you pick up any Marvel, Mike?
Yeah, I went for the very expensive Spider-Man. Sorry, it's Spider-Man Noir, so it's all dark anyway. So
yeah, I'm picking up the next one for sure.
All right. I read the original Spider-Man Noir series, and it basically sticks to it. It brings in Mysterio. The great Mysterio. He's a magician, and he's using drugs to get his fans to see things. And he wants Spider-Man's blood. He knows there's something up with that. He kind of knows some of how Peter got his power. And then at the end, it feeds you into the Spider Universe, the Spider crossover with all the different spiders and that. And it is good because, I mean, they bring in, at the end, a whole bunch of spider people, and it's trying to, how they have one part where everybody gets in, and it's, so, I mean, the Superior shows up, and the...
Gwen Stacy?
They have the Gwen Stacy one, they have the...
Yeah, I'm gonna pick up the Gwen Stacy one because I'm so happy that they finally brought her back from the dead in some form.
Yeah, the 6-armed Spider-Man, the monkey Spider-Man, So I just liked it for that. I mean, I thought it was
Spider-Ham.
Yeah, he was not in here. It was there's a monkey Spider-Man from.
I was gonna pick it up.
Yeah, and they kind of even explained each, kind of which universe each of them came from,
and this is leading into that event. Because I'm reading Amazing, right? And that's going to be an event where all the Spider-Man from the various universes. See, what's bothering me is if you're not reading All New X-Men right now, you have no idea how Miles comes into all of this. Because that's how he's going to come into all this, because I'm reading All New X-Men. I'm like, I'd be bummed if I was going into this and they're doing it in some other comic completely unrelated. Because because spoiler alert, Jean Grey goes into the Ultimate Universe in the next one, and Miles is like, "Who are you?" And that's how it ends.
All right.
Great.
Yeah, it was $6.
Whoa!
No, sorry. This one was $4.
Okay.
I thought it was the $5.99 one, but that was evidently just my first one. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, no, I could talk about this, so I'm not gonna.
All right.
So I'm not gonna shout
Oh,
you
okay.
out too much.
Let's hear about death.
Yes.
I was just
Wolverine.
showing it. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this
Is he
one
dead
takes
yet?
place. No. I thought it'd be 4 issues of him kind of falling down a cliff repeatedly, you know, cactus. But that would have been awesome. I'd have been like $10. Here you go.
Yeah.
But the first issue kind of left me wondering if it was just going to be basically a book that you should pay $3.99 for with filler behind it, but they actually fill it up in this one. He's essentially trying to track down people that are trying to kill him, because once it's found out that his healing factor's done and he's kind of falling apart at the seams, he gets a high contract put out on him.
Sure.
Essentially people saying he's vulnerable, let's kill him. And he finds out that his ex-wife over in Madripoor has put out a contract on him, and she goes, I'm not the only one that's done it, but the only way I'm going to tell you who else has done this is if you fight this guy to the death. Sabretooth comes in on a chain, and you're like, all right, here we go. And so they start fighting, but Sabretooth's still on the chain, and he's like, why are you holding back? Why aren't you pulling out your claws and stuff like that? And then all of a sudden Lady Deathstrike flies in. This sounds like I'm making this up. This is what happened. Flies in and like kind of wards off Sabretooth and kind of goes, get out of here. And then they look, and his why can't I think of her name? It's Viper, I think.
Yeah.
His ex-wife is gone. And he's like, I don't know what happened. And she's like, well, there's a contract out on me, too. I feel like I'm telling a story at the bar. But there's a contract out on me, too. So we got to get to the bottom of this. And that's where this one ends. So you still have 2 more issues for him to die, but he is dying. Like, in the first issue, you see him get in a fight, and he literally beats this guy until he's pretty much hamburger, and then you see him kind of like have to rest after. So they're slowly telling that aspect of him. Maybe he'll just kill over, is kind of the feeling. I know he's going to die brutally, but it's basically just him very weakened at this point. I got it because of Charles Soule, I'll admit.
Yeah. Well, then I'd be thinking about it. Other than it was just yeah. I'm not interested in the concept. I just have a hard time taking it serious. So
what it feels like, it's like let's age ourselves. It's like when Johnny Carson had his last show, and just everyone showed up throughout the years that was in Johnny's life. That's what this like Sabretooth just is there all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, and he's chained up for some reason, like this killing machine that usually the reason why he can't work with others is because he'll kill them.
Right.
Somehow gets chained down, and I don't know. I'm 2 in. You read Superman Unchained, so we're even.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a good Marvel book, like Miss Marvel or something.
Miss Marvel, yeah. Speaking of a book that's being allowed the growth of a character, that we get to see her mature and become whatever hero she's going to be, happening actually in the book.
Yeah.
Issue number 8. I mean, this is the comic book I was talking about when we were talking about the DC books, about how they aren't doing that, and I think this book is a prime example of how to do that and how it works. And this is a fun issue. Lockjaw is an awesome addition to the cast of characters in this book. I mean, I don't know how long she's going to have him around. You know, I don't know how long they'll play with the dog, but it's hilarious.
It's fun, yet it has this serious tone to it that you're like, it's just the right amount of everything in it. Like, I would say that Batgirl, and I espouse Batgirl, go out and pick it up. Sometimes it was a little corny here or there. This doesn't really give you that vibe at all, where you're kind of
Batgirl. Are you talking the
current run?
Oh, the current
No,
run. Oh, okay.
the current run. Like when she said like the Mario Kart joke, I was kind of cringing a little bit at
Oh,
that.
right, right.
There hasn't been anything like that. This feels honestly like a comic book from the Silver Age. Kind of they're letting her build and figure herself out. The powers have made her life a little bit more complicated, if anything. It hasn't made her life easier.
Mhm.
I'm liking that, and I'm liking the fact that they were gonna tie this into the Inhumans, and it feels like someone was like, "No, we'll do that a little bit, but no, that we're letting this build on its own."
Yeah.
And
Yeah, this character's great. I love the fact that she's just kind of positive person. I mean,
Yeah.
she, things go bad or things aren't right and whatnot. She gets a little bit down, but she's never down. She's not, determined to not let all that stuff tear her down. She's just a great character from that standpoint because there's so little of that. I think right now in superhero comics that it makes that seem like a fresh face and a new idea, even though it's not necessarily. And you're right. You're right. It's not a joke. I mean, there's serious stuff going on. I mean, there's kids being abducted. They're being used as power sources. I mean, that to me sounds horrific. So I mean, there's serious content within it. There's the right level of levity that goes on in it also. That I think just makes it just an enjoyable read. So,
but
fun.
I would also say though that I like the fact that when she first started out, she was kind of lied about it and kind of that. And as it's gone on in her interaction with Wolverine and such, you get that sense that she's taking on the responsibility too. Where
Right.
she's kind of like, this is something that I kind of have to do whether I like it or not now. And so
Yeah.
I like that, and I like the fact that she became attached to Lockjaw the way she did. She's like, get off my dog, and I was
Yeah.
like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just been really good. I really recommend people go pick it up. Like
Mhm.
we're not doing it justice right now at all. I've heard some people say that the art is a little bit weird, and I can't necessarily disagree with that. But it's not the worst art I've ever seen by any stretch. And I think the storytelling in and of itself, you can really look past that.
Okay, so it's not traditional. It's
Mhm.
not traditional superhero book. It doesn't look like a House Marvel book or a House DC style type book. But it's still great paneling and great storytelling.
Mhm.
Wonderful facial features. You get what's going on. You can tell when she's happy. You can tell when she's sad. You can tell when she's mad.
Mhm.
I don't see how that is bad art then. I guess. But you're right. If you're comparing it to Jim Lee 4-color superhero work where everybody's big muscles and huge and dynamic and that sort of thing
Yeah.
versus a comic book of a teenager, you're right. It has the action and stuff in it though. It's just it's not. It's people aren't puffed up and amped up and yeah, they're people. I don't know. I think it's great.
I gotta say, I like the artwork from what I've seen.
Yeah. No, okay, you want to talk about artwork that I felt like didn't fit. There was an issue of Eternal that was just completely different than everything else. If that would have been the way Eternal was from the get-go, I might have warmed up to it. The art in this has been really consistent.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't like it at first, you'll definitely be like, at least it's consistent.
Right.
And that's all a comic book fan can ask for, really, at the end of the day, is consistent art. There is nothing worse than picking up an issue and it's just drastically different for an issue or two, and then back to what you're used to. This has been the same style of art from the get-go.
Yeah, even when they had the fill-in artist for those 2 issues, it's still,
Mm-hmm.
it was different art, but it still stayed within the same style of work, so it made sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we kind of mentioned that with She-Hulk the other week.
Well, right. When She-Hulk had those 2 issues or 3 issues where that other artist on it was so radically different.
Yeah.
It was so radically different that
Fisheye lens.
It completely took you out of the story altogether. At least it did me, and I can tolerate a lot, and it was extremely jarring. So
Yeah. So I know that it's a girl main character, and some people can't get past that, but I would read this if it was a male protagonist the same way. I would enjoy it just as much. I think it's the fact that we're seeing, and this is a critique of DC, an adolescent hero being done correctly. And DC has lost the plot on that a long time ago. She's got all of her responsibilities. It doesn't feel like it's pandering at all to that either. It's not like, oh, I got to get on Facebook, even though there was something like that in this.
Right.
But it wasn't those cliches either. She really has just the struggles of a teenager. And I like that. And the fact that she still feels the responsibility to go out and figure out what's going on with all these kids disappearing. It's really cool. And I like the fact that she went from a fan to going like, I have to look at these people as mentors now a lot more. She starts looking at Wolverine as a mentor towards the end there.
Right.
And when you first meet this character, she's got stars in her eyes about these heroes. The hallucination she has is, whoa, I'm meeting... It's just really good. I cannot talk enough about it.
Yeah. It's an excellent book.
Yeah.
Excellent book. So, other... Go ahead, Mike.
Avengers Undercover. Oh man, I gotta do something about my light source here. This issue made me question: do I ever read Hopeless again? The author.
Really?
And what is going on with Walker the artist? I didn't really know it was coming up, but this is the last issue of this. Because Hopeless is going to Spider-Woman, and the artist is going to... Oh, they mentioned in here where they're going. But I guess so. Hopeless ended this so that he could get to focus, I think, on Spider-Woman. Okay. And with that, it felt like it was rushed. It felt like he ended it quickly. And I realized, I'm looking at it, and it says Walker is the artist, and I'm like, Walker has been doing much better art. We were talking about consistent art. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, it looks like everybody's got a broken nose, and I mentioned that last time.
Right.
I found out because the Walker is not the same Walker. This is Ty Walker, and his brother or cousin or family member is another Walker who started the art.
Are they winding that book down?
It didn't feel like they were winding it down. They trapped the good guys in a hole where there was a bad guy city, and then somehow that and some black magic kept them in there long enough that the bad guys started taking over the world. But the bad guys knew they were only going to get like half an hour to take over the world, and I'm just like, oh, it was a stupid storyline, you know that.
That's interesting.
And the kids. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, CDC.
Well, whenever I read reviews of that book, it's always getting outstanding and things like that. So that's interesting. That it sounds kind of cliche.
And every week I said the same thing. I was loving it, and then the artwork got all fuzzy, and I'm like, what is wrong with this? In fact, let's see if you guys can see. That's
wow.
Arcade. That's Arcade.
That's Arcade?
Yeah. And and to be
what's
fair,
happening?
Yeah, he is strapped to the back of a helicarrier. But even if I were to show you...
I was just like, if that's just his generic face, like he's getting ready to eat or something.
But, it was just this kind of dumb story. And, I mean, if you could kind of see the girls there... Yeah, let me get in there.
Kind of looks like... Go ahead, sorry.
It just looks like everybody has their nose blunted down, like somebody went through and punched each person right in their face and flattened it.
Who was the guy that did the art on Saucer Country? Because that kind of looks like that a little bit.
Ryan Kelly? That's who did the art. That's who did the art on Saucer Country. I don't.
Kind of looks like that a little bit.
I don't think so.
Saucer Country was good.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I was loving everything Hopeless was doing until this point, and because I was like, well, yeah, I'm going to look at Spider-Woman. I liked that, but the question on the art, it was some other Walker, and that was the thing that kind of Kev Walker was who was doing the art originally, and I didn't even notice until all of a sudden I'm like, well, what's wrong with everybody's noses? And like I said, wrapped up too quickly. character development fell apart, leaving me questioning if I want to follow either of these guys anymore. I mean, so I that was a big failure on their part, I think.
Do you think, and this is kind of something that's more modern, that these, like Charles Soule and people like that, they get so many books that it kind of bogs down their talent a bit, and that's what you're saying with him going into Spider-Woman? Do you think that maybe he can't give this the attention it deserves, and it's kind of why it's fading a little bit?
Possibly. I don't know what else Hopeless is doing besides this, because I mean, he kind of came in with the Avengers Arena, and then and just did all this, and so I mean, I was loving all of that, and I thought all those were his babies, and I thought this was his baby, and then it was
unless editorial said wrap this up quick because we want you to go do this book instead.
And that's what it felt like. It really felt like it, because it didn't feel like that's where the story was going, and it was all of a sudden. And then, of course, he leaves so many strings where he can get back to it. If Spider-Woman fails, if he gets tired, or
so is this book ended, or is he just leaving the book?
No, it's ended.
Oh,
I mean,
that would be my bet. Was he had this probably this story going, and then they decided, you know what, we want to put Spider-Woman back out there. We'd like you to do it. You don't say no to the boss because they're going to they're shutting your book down. So you want the steady paycheck. Plus, it'd be cool to launch Spider-Woman. I mean, so yeah, I wonder. That's probably what happened.
And so yeah, I mean, he can do another story with Who's Left, but it just makes me wonder: do I want that? I mean, unfortunately, knowing the business, yes, I am probably, as we always say, a sucker, and I'm going to go back.
Well, I think it has probably less to do with, because you've liked his writing up until this point, and just the way this ended. My sense would be is that it has more to do with what the company wanted to do than it had to do with what he wanted to do.
Yeah,
I think
there have been plenty of comics that I've seen that way. One of my favorite comics of all time, Secret Six, I do not think would have ended the way it ended, other than DC went, look, Gail, we need you to pull a plug on this because we really want you to go right Batgirl, and she went, oh, okay, well, I've got how many issues to clean it up? You've got this many. Oh, crap. And so you threw out this ending that I didn't think was a very good ending. But, because you got to do something,
And I don't think you have to worry, because if they do Secret Event, it'll be a completely different book.
Yeah.
So whatever you got is probably what it is.
Yeah,
so,
right. Yeah.
That's typically how they do that with relaunches.
So, other Marvel books?
Nope, that's it.
I could talk about a couple. I don't know if I want to.
Hawkeye?
I did get that. Okay, yeah, no, I did get that.
Yeah?
I forgot. And it was a good issue for a book that I'm starting to fall out of love with.
Well, because it's been a little scatterbrained, right? And told out of order, and it hasn't hit its release dates, and I think so that makes it a little harder too. I think.
Mm-hmm.
The whole, Kate Bishop's story, I actually like this. I like Kate Bishop, the character. I like some of the stuff that went on here, but it was hard to remember, for me anyway, because of how it skipped around. It was hard to remember, okay, exactly
who's who,
what was going on, who's heralding here. The guy that she kept meeting in the cat food aisle, what did that, it took me a little bit to remember that. I mean, I still really like it. I like how much she's like Clint, even though she tries not to be like Clint, I mean, ultimately, she gets the hell beat out of this multiple times, which is so Hawkeye.
Yeah.
The way this story has been told in a lot of ways. I'm gonna be bummed when it's done, but not at the same time, because I'm like you. Some of the charm of it's gone, and the inconsistency of it makes it hard for the way this story's told to keep being excited about it.
Yeah.
But it has lots of moments that I think are kind of I like.
It could be something that you'll go back a year or two from now and reread the whole thing all at once and be like, okay, that's the way I look at it, because as I was reading that, I'm like, now who's this again? Why is she involved with that person? And I was like, am I going to go into my long boxes and really dig out the last time we had a story with her, which I don't know which one that was. Mm-hmm. They really turned it into two separate comics, and I would say she's actually the better half of the two. I don't know where they could take Clint from here, actually, as a character. it would be interesting, but isn't this pretty close to the end of the series anyway?
22 is the final issue. Yeah. And I just got a notice from Discount Comic Service, where I get my comic books from, that there's a price change on that book, and it went up.
So it's $3.99 already.
It's a $5 book now.
Oh,
that final issue.
That's the death nail.
I think it's going up in price because they're putting more pages in there to try and finish it up.
Oh,
but see, there's something about this book, though, between the tweets that I've seen from the creators, Aja and Fraction, about this book, and of course it got, you know, Eisner and Harvey type nods and stuff like that, that Marvel wanted this book done, and I think that you know, I think there was some editorialness went on, which I don't think was really there at the beginning of the book. They just kind of let Matt do whatever he wanted to do with the book, kind of, and that's why it was great at the beginning, I think. And one of the reasons why it's gotten dicey towards the end, I think there was a point where Marvel was going to can it, and then it suddenly got these, you know, nods, these acclaims, but it's not selling really great. Whether it's getting those nods, so what do you do with a book? What do you do with a book that's getting the acclaim but isn't selling? I mean, because they're a company, they're a business, they're trying to. So something's gone on. I don't know. I'd love to know the full story behind it, but it feels like there's something else there, and there's some creative clashing going on, and I think that's one of the reasons why the book suddenly became a little more inconsistent and hodgepodgey, because I think that there was some pushing going on that I think wasn't warranted. I don't know that the way the Clinton part of this book has gone is exactly where they originally wanted it to go.
Yeah.
Because everything felt like it made sense until the whole ear piercing thing and stuff, and then it just kind of, after they were left, you know, laying there potentially dead or whatever, then things kind of felt like they went off the rails. That's about where, for me, it was like, wait a second, what's, you know.
they could have ended it right there, but
I would have been okay with that.
That would have been crazy.
It's interesting that they carried that through to the Deadpool versus Hawkeye.
Right, that he's deaf.
He stays deaf.
He's been deaf before, though. My understanding is, from talking to other people, is the character has been deaf before. That's not anything necessarily new, but I don't know. It just, there are parts about the book I like and whatnot. You're right. I think that I go back and read it, I'm going to enjoy the heck out of it. I think it would probably be great in trade and that sort of stuff too. But it's kind of rough right now as a single issue. Yeah.
I guess we're kind of spoiled because we're so used to just regular books coming out, you know, once a month, and sometimes we don't allow those books to kind of, you know, the books that come out inconsistently. Like, I think isn't Saga like that too a bit, where every once in a while it just takes a break for a bit?
Well, it takes a long break. I mean, you know when it's coming, at least. It's not inconsistent. I mean, you know in advance, okay, these chapters, and then we're taking that, you know, 2-month break for us to recharge and get caught up, so there isn't inconsistency when we do release it, kind of thing. That's become the Image book seems to be becoming more of a thing, which I'm okay with. I'm okay with that. When I know the break's coming, it's not because it's not in the middle of a story. It's not in the middle of what's happening. I mean, usually when the break for Saga happens, something dramatic has happened or whatever, but it has an ending to everybody's in the hospital or whatever. That's where it ends, and then it picks up someplace when it comes back. That makes sense. This is kind of in the middle of the chaos, and we have these large 2 or 3 month breaks. Makes it hard. Yeah,
and there's 2 big stories being told.
Right.
And so it's kind of, we're like, Black Science, when it took its break, it was perfect. It was just like, okay, something new is going to happen, and I'm looking forward to it.
And I'm okay with the break. I'm okay with the break for the creators to tell the right story they want to tell, and for it to be the quality that I'm expecting and I want it to be for my money. I'm okay with that break. I want the break to be consistent. I want the break to be a known, unless something happens, obviously. I mean, if one of these people had some horrific thing happen in their life or whatever, they have a heart attack or, you know, those sorts of things, that happens, I'm a sympathetic fan. Things happen in my life, so when I say, I'm gonna make a video about this and I don't get to it for a month, well, you know, shit happens in my life, and so I don't get to it. So I'm sympathetic to that kind of stuff. I mean, I get it. But I don't know that any of that kind of stuff's happened here. like I said, to me, from seeing people's tweets, not that I know everything goes on in these people's personal lives, it felt like there was something else happening.
Yeah.
And I'm still curious with Matt Fraction. What is Matt Fraction doing in Marvel right now? What is he doing besides this book? What is he working on?
Do you think they're just weeding him out?
I don't know if they're weeding him out or he's weeding himself out, or a combination of the two. Because I don't know how many of his books are successful with Marvel anymore. I mean, he was the spearhead behind Fear Itself, which wasn't necessarily a positively seen thing that I remember. They pulled him off a bunch. Well, they pulled him off a bunch of books that he was actually enjoying. He was supposed to be writing The New Inhumans. That was his book.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they pulled him off of these Fantastic Four books. They shut down the FF book so he could go and do the Inhumans and all that Inhuman stuff. And obviously, he's not writing Inhumans. Charles Soule is. He's not writing anything besides this. So I just don't know what's going on. It just feels to me like, because I pay attention to some of that machinery that's going on behind the works, that something else is going on. And I don't know. I don't know if that's a positive thing, a bad thing, or I have no idea, and I don't want to imply that it's something. It just, to me, it's curious that.
Sure. But, maybe he's leaving the company.
Successful enough with his image stuff that he doesn't need to do that.
Satellite Sam, I guess.
Well,
sex criminals.
Casanova was fairly popular. Sex Criminals seems to be very successful when they're making 7th, 8th printings of things. It's got to be doing decent. He's got Odyssey coming up, which I'm curious about that when that comes out. But so I don't know. That just, to me, it's a curious thing about the creator and maybe why that book is being the way it is.
Yeah.
Anyway. Magneto? Anybody else reading Magneto?
I forgot to get that. I knew.
See, it wasn't. I mean, somehow I missed this issue on my poll. I was looking at Dr. Monkeybot's Twitter feed, and he had this picture, and I'm like, wait a second, I don't have that Magneto. That Magneto didn't come on. So somehow, I think it comes out like twice this month, or like in 3 weeks apart from each other, or something like that. I don't know. Somehow I missed issue 9, so I had to run to the store and buy it.
I didn't even know it came out.
Cool issue. It was a cool issue. The artist that works on this one, Walta, I like his Magneto. It's more of the grittier, square-headed kind of Magneto with him. He's got the 5 o'clock shadow and whatnot. I just like it. He shows up in this place. This is a March to Axis tie-in. It has it does have the Red Skull in it, which of course Red Skull, right? He's like the ultimate Marvel Nazi.
Yeah.
And we've got Magneto, who of course he's a survivor of concentration camps and stuff.
He's one of my people.
So of course Magneto's got a serious hard-on to wipe out, Red Skull. So
I'm liking this.
He finds this place that Red Skull is basically enslaving a bunch of mutants and forcing them to do some dirty work for him and whatnot. So of course they show some of Magneto's past in here, of him trying to assassinate this SS soldier, which doesn't go well for him. He's preparing. He's got a jar full of screws, and he's getting ready to let loose on Red Skull, and it kind of goes screwy. Sorry for the pun. But it's a good issue. It's a good issue. If you've been liking Magneto, it's an awesome issue.
Yeah.
Because it plays into all of his history and his shame. It talks about his shame in there, about how he helped crematate. He helped burn bodies and stuff like that. He had to kind of hide, and how he feels ashamed of the fact he didn't fight from the very beginning. They kind of bid his time, and how he's not going to do that now. And it was good.
That's very real too. Like, there's people that really feel that way. So it really hits home for me. That's why I'm enjoying it so much.
Yeah.
Those creatures that are on the cover, is that the ones that Magneto like created? Because I've seen them in another X-Men comic.
Are they muties?
They're mutants. I don't know that because of course there's this large breadth of the Marvel universe that I don't know about that went through the 90s. So are they something he created? I don't know. He doesn't seem to know who they are, but they are definitely mutants, and they definitely don't like him. These ones that are on the cover are actually working with the Red Skull.
Right.
And
if you've been reading
like the goat face girl is what the name of one of them is. There's like the insect. I don't know who those. I don't know if those are new. Those are mutants that are new to this.
They're newer.
Okay.
But they were his henchmen in Uncanny Avengers.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what it was. All right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they don't like him in this. They literally one of the characters
Yeah.
goes, "I want his blood," and the other one goes, "We want all of his blood." I mean,
All right.
so, but it's like I said, cool art.
Yeah.
It's a really excited. The people who talked great about this book when it first came out, happy you did. I'm really happy I picked it up because it's been great. I mean, like I said, I know this is an Axis tie-in. I'm assuming that's why the Red Skull's in it, because that's the whole Axis thing, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm not. That's yet another event book I have no intentions of getting anywhere near. But if this is a tie-in to it, as long as it doesn't leave me completely hanging, because at the end of this, things do not go well for Magneto. As long as I don't have to go someplace else for that part of the Magneto story,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Because I'm not really excited by the Red Skull as a villain, but the Red Skull and Magneto, to me, that's interesting because there's a whole level of personal that's involved there that just because of both of their histories. And Red Skull has some interesting things to say to Magneto.
Well, and Red Skull there's another layer of that too because he has Xavier's brain too.
Right.
And so you have that aspect of.
And that's talked about in here to some degree. I mean, Magneto doesn't get all of that, but it's like, what? I mean, so there's some confusion there amongst all of that. And Red Skull basically kind of goes, look, you're playing the small game still. You're stuck back here. This is a whole different thing. You know, and of course, Magneto has some shame, I guess, at some point. Magneto had Red Skull dead to rights and let him live, and now really wishes he hadn't have done that. So.
Yeah, it's a gem. It's a hidden gem for Marvel right now, I'd say.
Yeah.
Next month we are going to see the blue ghost of Xavier hang out by him because he is inhabiting the mind, a la Doc Ock and Spidey. I mean, that's what I'm just foreseeing.
It was worse because I actually read Uncanny Avengers for a little bit.
Yeah.
And they literally cut open his head.
Yeah.
Take the brain out and slap it on top of his, and it's like I took human anatomy at a very low level in my undergrad.
Yeah, there's an illusionist, a minor illusionist, that actually kind of shows her. I mean, she comments on the fact besides Red Skull, there's this other person that's in their head telling them that they need to capitulate, that they need to just go along with it, that's going to be the safer route. And this is the image that she has, is of course Xavier with his head cut off, with his brain sticking out and whatnot. So
it was a bit cheesy. That was
one brain on another, and they just kind of
no,
absorb.
No, it doesn't work that way.
All right.
They could have done more with that. They could have cut off pieces of his brain and kind of done it could have been done a little more. But it just felt almost cartoonish, almost like I could picture a Looney Tunes episode where they do that, and then
they make the skull just a little bigger.
Oh, that's awesome.
No, he looks the same, but it's cool because he essentially becomes Onslaught. I don't know if that was explored in that, but that was a big deal in the 90s, the Onslaught character. So I was somewhat interested in that. I'm deciding between Axis and Spider-Verse. I might not pick up either, but I'm hearing good things about that, especially from this Magneto issue. I don't know.
I'm trying to remember what else I read. There's another Marvel book I read a week or two ago that is an Axis tie-in that I don't know. But this one didn't feel, like I said, like, I mean, I understand there's this other stuff going on, but it didn't feel like, this story didn't feel like it was out of left field because there's this history and this whole other dynamic that the writer, that Cullen Bunn, could use to tell a story that ties into Axis without feeling like it's freaking out of left field in comparison to what Magneto is doing in his own book. Because, I mean, like I said, like I keep saying, this Magneto story, to me anyway, feels like this street-level Magneto story, where it's this kind of personal, him, literally hitchhiking from place to place to take care of stuff because S.H.I.E.L.D.'s hounding him, and he has to kind of be under the radar, and he doesn't have the power that he used to have. So it just cool all around.
It's the Magneto book that you didn't think you wanted.
Right.
You're kind of surprised because when I thought of it, I thought it was going to be rather cliche and just him. I want to take over the world and make it good for mutants, but it's like, no, this is a character piece. It's a solid character piece, and you're really empathizing with him in a lot of degrees that you never did before. And I don't think I've ever thought, what if the Red Skull and Magneto met? I've never thought of that scenario.
Yeah.
So that sounds actually kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just, well, yeah, like I said, it brings back some more of his history of his time in the camps and all of that. And it's just like, ooh, because it never really, like I said, for me, it never occurred to me, man, they're both villains, but they're completely different kinds of villains. And I mean,
would not get along.
No, they represent. So yeah, all that history. Even if and even if it wasn't personal, even if he hadn't survived it, just being a mutant and his nationality and whatnot. I mean, all of that just kind of So it was good. It was good. Really good. Any other Marvel books?
Inhuman.
Oh.
Okay.
This will be the last one for me because I also read Amazing Spider-Man, but I didn't like it. But this one, essentially, for those of you who don't know, Black Bolt has gone missing. He released a huge chunk of the Terrigon Mist, and a lot of Inhumans are springing up. So this issue covers one of the new Inhumans and how he came to be. Because when he's first introduced, he's in the quote-unquote villain camp, so you don't really get his story. And you get his story, and essentially what happens is he's in Minnesota in a little small town, and the mist comes to his town, and they're trying to escape it. And they get to the point where there's floodwaters, so the buses that they're on have to stop, and they're getting out and they're getting ready to swim across, and the cloud hits him. His entire town, his entire family just gets wiped out, and it's just him. And he realizes at that point that he's been adopted, and he's like, what is going on here? Everyone I've ever known is dead, and I don't know what to do with it. And then there's the main plot is essentially Black Bolt's cousin that we don't know his name, was apparently the leader of the Inhumans a long time ago before Black Bolt took over. He finds out Black Bolt's been missing, and he comes back and he says, I'm the rightful heir to the throne. They're not sure about that. They're kind of like... And what I like about it is they're like, your name has been taken from the record. You're not... We don't even allow people to speak your name. So whenever someone talks to him, the name is redacted in the comic. So you don't even know the name.
Wow.
So you don't even know the name. But he goes, here, I know this kingdom like the back of my hand. Can I at least spend the night here and have my friends spend the night here? And you're like, yeah, that's a great idea. He immediately in his room pushes a switch, opens a secret passage. He knows the place like the back of his hand. And he goes down to where they're storing the Terrigon Mist. Medusa appears out of nowhere and goes, you don't think I'm that stupid? And he jumps into the mist, and he comes out, and he's just a completely different person. And that's where the issue ends. I'm telling you, get it in trade if you're going to get it at all. I think that the fact that this has kind of been, like we spoke about, Fraction kind of made the release, made the release kind of sporadic, so it's kind of hard to keep up with. It's not something that's on the top of my pile necessarily, but I'm a huge Inhumans fan, so I'm loving this.
Cool.
Yeah. Mr. CDC, last issue had Thor in it. Did you feel that they were treating new Atla like they were treating new Asgard? They plunk it down, it's this whole new kingdom and rules, and then they have to incorporate it into America?
Well, it's funny because where the new kingdom is, it's literally like just far enough out of New York Harbor that it's in international waters. And he's like, I don't know how you are handling this. It's a decent cameo. It doesn't feel like it's selling the book, like, oh, Thor's in this. Because he literally just stops by and checking on what's going on. You get the feeling that the Avengers kind of sent the one guy that could probably talk to them. Because one of the big things is that the outside world is it's very similar to the mutants, how they used to be treated. They're like, what's going on here? We have no eyes in here. We have no idea what's going on. Mutants are a lot more accepted in the Marvel Universe now, and now we actually have a group that, once again, isn't being trusted, is kind of looked at as they have an agenda. Numerous people are dying once this cloud hits our town, and they're taking the survivors in. What's going on here? So, yeah, I mean, he kind of comes in and goes, what's going on here more than anything else, and then leaves. It's funny because Ms. Marvel has kind of a connection to this book right now.
Right.
And there's little hints here or there about her, like they talk about her existence. There's one more in New Jersey, but we're going to leave her alone.
Yeah.
And I like that. Like they're saying we need all the new Inhumans we can because this big thing's heading for Earth and we don't know what to do about it. We need as much help as we can get, and they're going off this checklist. And they basically go, well, there's one more in New Jersey. Don't worry about her. We sent someone's watching her, and you know who it is. And I was like, oh, that's a cool nod and wink.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't have to read it. You wouldn't have to read it to know, but it's kind of cool.
Nice.
Yeah. So,
Cool.
any more Marvel news?
I don't.
It was as clear day. Did you not see on the bottom of each of our comics?
Oh, the Shield thing.
Shield, it's coming back.
Oh yeah. I have to watch the first season.
Yeah, don't.
I don't.
Don't. The second season, 4 episodes, but the first season was not very good, very strong at all. Because I wanted X-Files each week to go and do something, find some new weird comic, like comic book character, comic book piece. They didn't do that. It was just a little weak, and this second season looks like it might be better. So
Yeah.
but they did move the time so they wouldn't be up against the Flash.
Right.
So now it's 1 hour later.
Yeah. Change the time so it wouldn't be at the same time, and
Yeah.
so, yeah, I don't know. They're introducing more superhero type characters in this season, putting Mockingbird in and stuff like that. So
Absorbing Man and some of them, yeah.
I'm still not.
Absorbing Man.
I'm still not sure. Yeah.
See,
but-
well,
right.
this is the problem, though, is essentially the movies are doing a good thing, like having Guardians of the Galaxy and having some of these more. They're going to have an Inhumans movie. But what the problem is, any TV show they're going to make, they're like, we can't have that. They're going to put that character in a movie. We can't. So they're going to give you D and F level people. I'm not saying I'm a fan of Mockingbird, but still, I know that they're not going to do that character justice. Absorbing Man? Really?
It's the only chance of ever getting a Thunderbolt cameo, so I'll take it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I saw on Arrow, I haven't caught up to that yet, that the Task Force X shows up, and I was like, that's awesome.
They work them in excellently, and in the deleted scenes, they show even more. So I have to say that was well done.
Yeah, see, the Daredevil stuff on Netflix, what else is there on Netflix that they're doing?
They're going to do Luke Cage, Iron Man or Iron Fist, and then Jessica Jones. I'm not really sure because they want to do all 4 to link into Defenders.
Right. And I know it's not directly Marvel because it was Image at one point and Icon at one point, but isn't Powers? Aren't they doing the Powers TV show? Isn't that actually going to be through Netflix?
I've heard of that. I haven't.
I know it kind of got made and then got killed a couple times on different stations, but I think they actually have a new place that actually picked it up. I've seen some retweets about from Bendis and from Omin, the artist, that it's actually happening again. So I think it's through Netflix. I think that's what it's going to happen at too. But not that that's actually the Marvel universe, but
it's the '90s, guys. We're going to see a big boom, and then it's going to go bye-bye.
This is nothing like the '90s.
Well, I mean, as far as the other multimedia, that does feel like that. It does feel like we're gonna. I don't know. I just saw today that Guardians of the Galaxy was the first movie of this year release of movies to break 300 million or billion, whatever the hell it was, domestic.
Yeah.
So. They'll keep making them makes that kind of money. There's no way they're not going to. Good or bad, it doesn't matter.
I could see the '90s reference in the film and TV, but
right? That's movies, not comics. No, I don't think Mike's meaning comic book wise, but certainly media wise.
TV wise, especially.
Sure. Well, that's why. I mean, I don't know if people picked up on it. For those of you who watched my What the Few 3 anniversary, my questions. One of them is, like we need another TV show. I mean,
but I got a good one. If
you didn't get my cynicism for that question, I'm sorry, because that's kind of really what it was. It's like, I mean, we'd all like to see another one, but at the same time, me anyway, personally, I don't need to see any more. I'm excited by every new one that gets announced. I'm sillily excited for the Teen Titans one. That's the latest one that I've heard about. But at the same time, I'm like, I just don't need 24 hours worth of superhero television because most of it's not going to be good.
Constantine.
Most of it's just going to make you be stabbing yourself in the side of the head the whole time you're watching it. But
2 arrows.
yes, it's like I need to be
Steve
blinded
Martin.
more. I need to be blinded more than deafened, though.
All right.
So anyway, so no real Marvel news that we can really think of. Let's move on to indie books. Most of my poll is indie books this week. So I've got lots of indie books to talk about. What do we want to talk about?
Ape Sapien?
Ape Sapien. I did get that.
I figured.
Yeah. Did you just jump on?
I picked up the one before it
Okay.
because after you were talking, and yeah, I really loved issue 15, and then I read issue 16 because the other question I had was, can a new reader jump in?
Uh-huh.
And like you said, it was difficult because 15 was slightly out of continuity. It was more of just a focus
Right.
piece.
Right. From
Um,
the past. Uh-huh.
Yeah, but I mean, I did get the first Abe Sapien trade. I picked up this, and I get the theme of it's about Abe and who is Abe. You know, even though he knows who he is in his past now, who is Abe now?
Right.
And I did like that part. You know, I didn't know why there was a hole or, you know, some of the extra parts and his conflict, but I'm developing it. And I think I could see what Jen did when she got in, is you're filling in all these pieces, and it's just a good writing piece, so it does make you care automatically.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'll let you go now.
Guess what?
What?
I don't know the whole thing either.
All
I haven't read the stories where he gets shot because
Okay.
he's back in the town where he got shot and it put him into a coma. It really screwed him up. It was a very traumatic part of his life, and then other stuff happened. And I don't know all that story. The only bits and pieces I know of it is what I picked up since I started getting into the Magnolia universe and the Hellboy universe. So I'm not 100% clear on all that stuff either. I know something happened there. I mean, I know that he's decided he wants to go back there because he's trying to, like you said, he's trying to find meaning in his life, who he is and whatnot. This issue is particularly interesting because he's changed. He's actually physically changed the way he looks. If you go and look at older Abe Sapien, he looks different than he looks here.
Yeah.
And now he's wondering if he's kind of thought that maybe, and everybody's kind of implying that the reason he's changed is because he's part of the greater thing that's destroying the earth, these creatures that are taking over. And now he's wondering maybe he isn't, because this hole that's in this swimming pool is releasing some gas, and it's not part of the bigger thing, but it turns people, instead of turning them into fishmen monsters, it's turning them into kind of zombie type dudes. And he wonders if he got exposed to some of that gas, and that's why he's changed. It's because it's changed his physique in some fashion. So that's what he's trying to figure out now in it. I really like the book. I continue to enjoy it because I like the exploration of, the main thing about this, all 16 issues so far, is who is Abe Sapien. It's the main exploration of that. Plus you get these kind of side characters and their stuff going on. Probably one thing that's confusing in here is in this one, at the beginning, you have this guy talking to a zombie, or a guy that looks like a zombie, and kicking a skull around. That guy, I don't know exactly what his game was in the bigger universe. He is somebody that banked on Satan. He banked on hell. He banked on hell taking over the world. His view was, I want power. I want to be a big cheese. So I've invested in Satanism. I've invested in hell. We're taking over the world, and the rug gets pulled out from underneath him. Suddenly, this other, whatever alien force is coming out of the center of the world.
Yeah.
Basically, kicked Satan in the nads and is taking over the world. And now he's trying to figure out, wait a second, this power base isn't working for me. I need to find a new one. So he's trying to figure out how to buy into this new power base. These gods and whatnot. That's part that probably is unclear there. And so now he's in a scramble because he doesn't care who he's getting power from or who he's worshiping. He just wants it. So now he's this new scramble of him. So I think that's kind of an interesting story, just him trying to figure out, okay, I was a Satanist, I was into all that, but Hellboy and Hell killed Satan. and has screwed up their power base.
All
So
right.
there's all this other power base going on, and I need to buy into it. How do I do that?
So this is after Hell on Earth, then, correct?
Well, it's happening at the same time.
All right.
Hell on Earth, yeah, Hell on Earth is this large thing because there's, the Earth has been cracked, open, and all this stuff's pouring out of the center of the Earth. These different elder gods or whatever the heck they are that no one knows. There's not really a history on them. I mean, in the past, before the whole Hell on Earth stuff started happening, mostly what BPRD was is they would go around and they were exploring, cultists, Satanists, people using what we would stereotypically consider occult type stuff to try and gain power and take over things. The Nazis were using it, Rasputin was using it. So it seemed pretty mundane. We're dealing in the Edgar Allan Poe bump in the dark type stuff.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden this other thing shows up, this other power, which you could kind of compare it to like the Chthonian mythos. You're familiar with H.P. Lovecraft, but not really. It's very loose but not really that. That sort of an alien power has suddenly shown up, and it's turned everybody's on their ear because nobody knows how to deal with it. It's not like there's all these history books. I mean, if you have to deal with vampires, there's these libraries out there that they can go through and figure out, oh, this is the history of this vampire. This is what I need to do to get rid of them. It not simple, but seems simple. Here, there's no book. There's nothing written down to say this is how it's all going to work. And it's more of a disaster. It's more of a disaster type thing now than it is a cult type thing.
All right. And then, do you know why he has trouble with the BPRD then? Because it seems like there's...
Oh, right. Well, they think he feels like, and some of the people in BPRD do believe he's somehow connected. Now, do they necessarily think that Abe is a bad guy himself? No. Abe has helped tons. But BPRD is a governmental branch, and the government kind of does what they want to do.
Yeah.
He refers to, in this one, he refers to a friend they put a bomb in. There was this Roger, I think his name's Roger. He's a golem, a homunculoid. He's a created thing.
Yeah.
Right. They put a bomb in him. They put a bomb in him and blow him up because he's not a real person as far as they're concerned. So it doesn't matter. Well, Abe really believes if he gets dragged back to PPRD, they're going to dissect him. The only reason he survived not being dissected before is because Hellboy was around. And Hellboy's dead. So who's going to help him?
All right.
So he's got a serious mistrust because he thinks that they think that he's somehow responsible. And he's not sure. He's not 100% sure. That's why he's running, because he doesn't know.
All right.
Okay. A little bit of history on...
But it's also good to know that there's still quite a bit of the story that you don't know, so then I don't feel like I'm just...
Knowing all of that universe, that's a daunting task. It is huge. There's several books dedicated to it. It's gone on for a long time. It's really, to be honest, if you're a comic book nerd or a snob, it's the book for you, because they do not play. It is literally, you have to read it from the beginning. If you want to know it all, you have to. You can jump in. But if you want to know it all, they're not going to remind you. They're not going to tell you. You got to go back to the beginning and read it all the way through. Yeah. And it's a great run. I mean, I've hopped in and out of it. It's awesome. I love it. It's probably the best thing Dark Horse does. It's Dark Horse, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the best thing Dark Horse does. So.
All right.
Yeah. But you're right. It is. I mean, they'll go back to that stuff, but they don't. You're right. They don't hand anything to you, or make that part of it easy. And I'm not saying that to discourage people from getting on the book.
No.
Get on the books and read them, but it really is one of those things where you're going to have to read and then decide how much of you want to explore. At some point, I'm going to go back and get all that stuff. I'm going to go back and get all, but it's not hindering me from enjoying what I have read. And granted, I've read more than a lot of other people here have. I know, like the Dark Nate 40, he's gone back and gotten it all, and he's actually gone through and read everything. So he has more knowledge in it than I do. Despite the fact he started reading it after I did, because he's enjoyed it enough that he's just gone back and got all that stuff. And at some point, like I said, at some point I will too, because I'm enjoying it all, and it's great to, when I do find singles here and there, I'll pick them up and read them, and I've been enjoying that stuff. But it's not necessary. It's not necessary. But they're going to talk about stuff you don't know, and you need to accept. You need to accept that, or go back and buy it all.
Yeah, and as somebody who jumped into it, this issue I liked because, like I said, the writing made you care. You just had a lot of questions.
Yeah.
No,
Um,
that and let me just make it clear. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. The problem is if you're a comic book fan, you're going to read it and you're going to want to know all of it. You're going to want to know all of it, and that's a daunting task. That's what makes it hard.
yeah,
Well, yeah. I mean, because the BPRD is on issue 123 or something like that.
all right, yeah,
And unless you're going to read it in trades, which is how I suggest if you think you want to go back and read it in trades. Don't try and pick it up in singles.
Yeah.
Singles are hard to pick up because up until issue 100, it wasn't numbered consistently. In the interior, it's numbered consistently. Like if you look at this Abe Sapien, it says Abe Sapien, issue number 16. But if you open it up on the inside, it says number 26 in a series. Because there were mini-series before this, and they would release it in little chunks. You know, there was Abe Sapien, The Devil Doesn't Jest. You know, some great little 2 or 3 shot little stories, and that's how they used to tell it. And that's how they told all of the BPRD. It was told in little chunks. And then when they got to issue 100, they went, you know what? Let's start numbering it as a regular type comic at that point. So you'd have to pick it up in singles and to try and read it in order. You end up picking it up, have to take it out and look on the inside and see what number it says it is, because that's a crazy way to number the stuff.
yeah.
So I'm really glad they went to consistent numbers. But
Issue 15, I did really love as a one shot. So.
Yeah. Okay. We've probably talked way too long about that.
Yeah.
You cannot go wrong with any of it. The problem is it's so good that you want to know all of it, and that's kind of the problem. That's where it does become a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. East to West. Issue number 15. Balloon.
That thing is scary.
Yes. Oh.
What I like about it, though, is that crew has kind of been like No Country for Old Men up to this point. Anywhere they went, you're like, everyone's in trouble.
Right.
And to see them kind of be like, what is going on?
What you're talking about is the 3 horsemen of the apocalypse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the 3 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the 3 horsemen of the apocalypse. Pestilence, conquest, and war, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, Death's the one that's off doing his own thing. But everywhere these kids, and they're kids, they're like, you know, preteen, just kill, maim, destroy, and maul everything. You know, they're just a wrecking machine. And in this issue, they finally show up to deal with Death's kid, who everybody, and he's the Beast. I mean, they've named him the Beast. You know, not a beast, but the Beast.
The Beast.
You know, the biblical, mythical beast, as far as that goes. And he's a little kid. He's a little kid who's like in a sensor deprivation chamber kind of a thing, hooked to a computer, and that's where he's lived. Well, he's been running scenarios this entire time with the computer as to how to escape what's going to happen to him. And he does. He does very easily, very frighteningly so.
Yeah. Well, see, the 3 horsemen that are kind of been the antagonists in this, if you could call it that, it's such a great cast of characters in this.
Yeah.
The one thing that I thought that has been done really well is they've let some people live. If they just went everywhere and killed whoever they came across, it would kill the tension of the book, I feel, in a lot of ways, because you'd be like, whoever they come across is dead. They've sometimes been like, and left people better off than they were. You're like, okay, this is interesting, because you don't know who's going to die and who's going to live.
Yeah.
But if you're on the wrong side of them, up to this point, you're toast. You're done. And they've really built them up to be this scary team of people, and the Beast just goes full-blown shinobi on them and just messes up everything.
Yeah.
It was awesome, and the dialogue great.
Well, right, the whole conversation that goes on. I mean, because Conquest is the first person to run into him, goes to jump him, and gets a leg cut off. Casually just gets a leg cut off. Well, the computer is this ball that they end up naming Balloon. I mean, they have a conversation about, what's your name? Oh, I don't have a name. I don't have a name. Do you have a name? Well, yeah, my name is this long binary, designation. It's like, that's an awful name. Would you like a regular name? And the computer's like, yes, I'd love a name. And he's like, how about Balloon? The computer goes, I would love to be named Balloon. So now here's this thing that's named Balloon, but it's sitting on the ground, and Conquest runs past it, and as it runs past it, it shoots out a laser beam. A hard, hot laser beam, cuts one of the dude's legs off. So he's laying around with his leg cut off, and they're having this long conversation about names and what do names mean, and I understand why I didn't know people's names before this. I mean, it's this whole kind of heady kind of thing before he then just smashes the bejesus out of Conquest. But by taking Balloon, because Balloon's hooked on a tether to the Beast, swings it like a ball and chain and just smashes the hell out of him, basically.
It's crazy. Like, we're not doing it justice, because these three, up to this point, everyone...
are badasses.
The people they do let live, terrified. When
Right.
they see... I mean, just... You think these things are unstoppable.
They're not called the Horsemen of the Apocalypse. They are the Horsemen of the Apocalypse. That's one of the things you need to know about it. Is it's not like they're the mythical beings. They're not just some badasses that have these names. They have historically risen and fallen numbers of times, it seems. And here's the panel where he's smashing. Full page panel of him smashing the hell out of Conquest. But and I don't want to spoil anything in this. I mean, here he is flying off with Balloon. So he actually literally uses the computer as a balloon as he's flying off to escape. I don't want to spoil the end of this thing, but
What an ending.
I was digging it all along. We get kind of a clue that there's something maybe happening, because when he first sees the three horsemen, they don't look like these kids. They look like something else. But, oh, man, the way this ends. So the Beast, who names himself Babylon, who gets named Babylon, the first city, after the first city. But, now I just see some really, really horrific things happening with the level of power this kid has. Because, I mean, they have this conversation as he's getting ready to escape. These guys come in to kill him because they're planning to come to kill him. He's only got so many seconds to get dressed and get out of there. And they have a conversation about the fact that they could literally stop time if they wanted to. That they could phase out of time.
Yeah.
Theoretically, we can phase out of time. And the computer goes, well, it's not really theoretically. We know we can do it. We just don't know how. Because it takes so much power. We don't know how many times we can do it. So we know at some point they literally have the ability to either phase walk themselves out of time or stop time around them and do whatever the hell they want to do. So frightening under that aspect alone.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just going to be.
And on top of all of this, you have these countries. It's kind of an alternate history. So China has like this completely different outlook. It's got a steampunk kind of thing going with it too. There's several countries within the United States. It's just well.
The Indians are called the Nation. They're the First Nation, and they actually are more. They have a higher tech level than anybody else does, kind of a thing. They're flying around in almost the equivalent of flying saucers and whatnot. They've had some Artemis that they've all signed this peace treaty. The First Nation has been selling weapons to everybody else, but they sell a lower grade weapon that they know all the weaknesses to. So they're just flying around blowing the hell out of people. They're down just wrecking Texas, the southern states, the Confederate states. They're just down there just wrecking the hell out of the place right now. The Chinese that I can't remember what their nation's called, what their country's called, but they own the West Coast basically. Yeah. San Francisco, the whole Chinatown thing has just kind of expanded to take over everything else. They haven't been buying weapons from the Indians just for that reason, because they knew that there's gonna be a weakness there. Yeah. They're going to war. Too. It's going to just be. So there's this whole political, alternate history, political geo thing going on. Plus, there's this kind of mythical thing going on, and Death. Death is just trying to find his son, who is the Beast. Yeah. So for him, it's simply this story of a guy who had a child that somebody stole from him, and he's trying to get it back. I mean, so.
Oh, and the rest of the horsemen want Death too. That's another thing you have to add in. Like, it's very layered, but it's layered perfectly. I've never felt lost. Everything's kind of built nicely. Like, even because some issues are off over in China, the Chinese nation more often. You don't feel like, oh, why didn't they cover that more? It all builds good, and I would highly recommend getting the trades of it. And
it always rolls back to things before you reach a point of going, when it leaves an interesting thing, it goes to something else, and it gets you back to whatever that other thing was again before it gets too long. It never takes too long before it gets back to all the different beats that are going on in the story. And I think that me and CDC talked a little bit on Twitter today about the fact that the issues before this weren't necessarily dynamic issues, but boy, this issue just punches it back up again like nobody's business. So yeah. Exciting stuff. Any other books?
Did anyone get Copperhead?
Yes, I did. I heard other people talking about it, so I went to the chain store, paid full price for it.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
What was the name of that one comic? Oh god, you're not gonna know this, but you read it too. I know, where it was kind of futuristic and they were making
Six Gun Gorilla?
Boom.
Was that it? Yeah.
I
Had
think
that kind of a desolate feel to it. The
Yeah.
desolate kind of cowboy kind of a feel.
Yeah.
Without the meta text going on in it. Yeah.
Yeah. I just lost All-Star Western, so I'm more open-minded to this. I think if I didn't have that, I mean, really, at the end of the day, if you want to read a good Western, there's the Six Gun.
Yeah.
That's you'll never go wrong with that. But this is kind of different, kind of good, but it's definitely a Western feel to it, I would say.
Oh, without a doubt. I enjoyed it. I'm happy I went and got it. I don't know that it's like, oh my gosh, incredible. But if you're looking for a Western book that doesn't happen to be, okay, so it's got aliens in it, so you're going to have characters that look different than humans. But it has, I guess what it is, it has the stereotypical, in a sense, new sheriff comes to town, has to establish themselves, you know, and obviously the town already kind of operates in its own way. It's a frontier town. There's a mining place that pretty much owns 90% of everything. It seems like almost everybody works for the mining company, so you know there's going to be some sort of conflict there. It has all this what seemed to be what I would consider stereotypical beats, but I still really enjoyed it. It was still likable. There's likable characters in it. The conflict that there isn't so bad that it feels corny or hokey as far as that kind of stuff. You know, there is some alien aspect to it that I don't know how much will play into it. Well, I guess it's not alien so much as it's class. It's class or race, right? It's like, oh, you know, there's a peace treaty and we're all supposed to get along, but you know, this alien guy who's the deputy who didn't get the sheriff job even though he applied for it. This woman's the sheriff. You know, he feels put out because he wanted the job, but he's a second-class citizen, and that's why he didn't get the job. He feels like. So you know, like I said,
potential.
It has a lot of stereotypes in it, but I still really liked it. The art's great too. I really like the art.
Yeah.
Is that a limited series? Is it or is it going to be an ongoing?
Let me see. I don't know.
I think it's an ongoing. I don't remember seeing anything about it that wasn't.
And what company is that?
Image. It's Image.
All right.
Done by people that I don't really know. I mean, I could name the stuff that they've worked on in the past because I can look at the back of the book and tell you, but nothing that I've read. Yeah. So, I mean, the guy basically wanted to kind of write Deadwood in space kind of a thing. So that's kind of what he was going for, you know, to some degree. But yeah. If you're looking for a Western, I think it meets that. I think it meets that criteria well, despite it being on an alien world, and you know they fly around in space speeders as opposed to horses. But there's a murder. You know, there's a murder towards the end of this. There's going to be mystery. You know, there's going to be the crime-solving stuff going on and whatnot. I'm on board for a few issues because I can handle a couple different Westerns. I think so.
Again, though, and not to be a broken record, Green Lantern, get on it. I'm just throwing that out there, like. This Green Lantern could go this route to a degree, maybe not with as much of the edgier stuff, but this is what they should be doing.
Oh, you're saying Green Lantern should be this type of a book?
Yeah,
right.
or going in this direction.
Okay. Yeah,
going in this direction.
I was like, I thought we just said Green Lantern wasn't good. So.
Right,
no, that's what I mean, though. Like, because
Yeah.
one of the things I hear about is, well, what would you do? It's like I'm seeing Black Science do all these neat things and doing all that, so it's entirely plausible to go in this direction. I don't buy into it that you couldn't do this. As I was reading this, I'm like, this is a good version of Green Lantern to a degree. It's like, maybe I'm being too meta because the next book I want to talk about is Annihilator.
Okay, go ahead.
If you were disappointed with Multiversity and you really wanted the deep meta stuff, this was it. Because I had to read it more than once. I was like, I'm missing something. What's going on here? Have you ever read Flex Mentallo?
Yeah.
I just did, yeah.
How many times did you have to read certain things over again?
I've read it numerous times over the years. So yeah,
It's
and
definitely been.
I get something out of it every time I read it. So
It's that, and what I like is it's him unleashed, where I feel like Multiversity is going to be him kind of trying to make something that the mainstream will like too.
right.
If you like his stuff and you like the more meta stuff, that's pretty much what he's doing here. It is.
I'm gonna have to go get it then because I decided I wasn't gonna get it. And
I don't necessarily think it's good. Is what I'm getting.
but I enjoy that though. I enjoy
Right.
it being that kind of crazy pants kind of thing. I mean, I do. You know, as much as I might complain about it too, I actually enjoy it. I enjoy being challenged and forced to have to read it multiple times, as long as it actually ultimately ends up making sense, and it's not just somebody trying to tie threads together that are totally crazy pants and don't and should never really be tied together.
Because when I break it down to what it is, it's if you look at the story for what it is, it's kind of stuff I've heard before and all that. But if you're just like, I haven't had him, sorry to use expletives, fuck with my mind for a while.
Right.
This is for you, because that's what this is.
I may have to go get it then.
But yeah, I'm putting the caveat there. I'm not saying it's good.
All right, since you brought it up, the Flex Metallo multiverse crisis is. I guess I didn't care for it because it feels like he's trying to tell the same story, or he has this idea and he's still working on that idea.
Yeah, but the thing is about Flex Metallo, and I really like it. I'm not gonna lie, is it's so layered in that there's criticism of comics in it.
Yeah.
There's kind of cynicism to the comic book universe, and he's one of the few people that has the guts to do that. A lot of writers, I feel, in a way, and I think that's why we were talking before this show that in my opinion, comic books have stagnated a little bit. They aren't really willing to challenge on the level he is. I will admit at times I'm like, where the hell is he going with this? But in a way, he's the only one of the few writers that will go, you know what, I'm going to try something different, and I'm going to even challenge myself on this one. And he's got enough clout that mainstream companies will allow him to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get a lot of writers with that. I don't even think Snyder could do something like that. And he's got a ton of clout at DC.
But I don't think he has any interest to.
True.
I don't think he has an interest to. To challenge. I mean, for me, I think different writers write for different reasons, and Morrison, I think more often than not, wants to write a book to challenge the reader.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not simply just going to be telling a story. That's his style. That's what he does, and that's great. I mean, I appreciate both for what they do. One is just entertaining for the sheer sake of reading it and being entertained by, a Batman story or a story about people eating people or whatever. And then there's this other one that that I'm actually disappointed if I read it. If I'm reading a Morrison, I expect it to be that kind of layered, kind of telling me something else. If it's not, ultimately I end up being disappointed.
Yeah.
Because that's my expectation when I pick up a Morrison book. I don't care if he's writing Wonder Woman, if he's writing Batman, Superman. I don't care, or any Marvel character or whatever he was doing on his own. My expectation is it's going to have that in it. If it's just a straight story, I kind of come away from it going,
well,
I got ripped off.
Well, that's kind of the thing, too. On top of that, Flex Metallo, if you read it as it was coming out, you were like, I'm not sure. But then if you read it as one big piece, that's why I'm a little more optimistic about Multiversity, is maybe... Because I'll admit, I didn't see any of that in that first issue. I didn't really see anything that really challenged me. It really felt generic, for him at least. It was not anything that... But at the same time, will I be saying that when the final issue of it comes out and you're like, oh, I see the whole picture now? And we're having this conversation. I can't think of any other comic book writer I can say that about, where I say, not only did he challenge me, but he had me look at comic books differently. I don't know any writer out there, and that's why I'm willing to literally take my lumps with Morrison more than any other writer. I know, like when I said I was going to pick up Annihilator on Twitter, someone instantly was like, "Oh, no thanks, I don't want anything to do with that." And I was like, "Why not? It's good to challenge yourself with not only comic books but writing in general." And I don't feel like you get that in comic books enough.
Yeah. Well, that's not for everybody though. So I mean, I get that.
Yeah.
That's just like there's people who literally do not want to branch out and read comic books that have anything to do with other than superheroes. That's what they want to read, period. They don't want to venture that.
Or ones that are female.
Or vice versa. Right, or that stuff. And that's cool. I mean, I think you're missing something, by doing that, but yeah.
So yeah, I caveated that. I do recommend checking it out, though.
Cool.
All right.
But I'm not saying it's good.
All right. Anybody pick up Wild's End?
No.
Boom Studio book written by Abbott. Cumber does the artwork on it. I picked it up. I picked it up because Abbott was writing it, and I've enjoyed some of his other stuff. I like the new Dead Guardians. I enjoyed that story. I'm intrigued by anamorphic characters. Yeah.
Anthropomorphic.
However you say that. Animals that are people. So I thought, I'll pick it up because that seemed amusing. Might be kind of fun for that too. It's a fun story. This first issue is pretty interesting. Basically, the premise of what's happened in it. It's set in the beginning of the Industrial Age. It's set in a quaint little village, someplace in rural England. So they don't have like mechanical stuff there yet. They're talking about having like the equivalent of like a county fair, and they're going to bring in a diesel engine to show off. And some of the people are like, "Ooh, we don't need that kind of fancy stuff here. We're fine with what we've got going on." So it's that era, right? So it's kind of set in that era. The characters have names that kind of reflect what they are. Like there's a Fox character in here. His name is the last name of his family is Fox, but it's spelled like Fawkes. But and they're quaint British people. They are all polite speaking and all this stuff. There's a dog in this that's from who served in the Navy, so he's an old sea dog.
That's not his name.
No, it's his name. I can't remember what his name is. His name is something else.
If his name was Sea Dog.
No, but they refer to him as being an old sea dog, which I think is kind of funny. But he's a quiet guy. He seems to be somebody who obviously served in action. He's moved to this quiet place to kind of, get away from it all. But at the beginning of this, there's a fox and a ferret. They're walking down the street getting drunk, and they see a falling star, which actually lands close by. They go to check it out. Then it cuts to this tranquil city scene of they're planning this fair. And the fox shows up, says his friend is dead. He's drunk off his ass. Nobody really believes him because he's like the town drunkard. The dog character seems to think that he's genuine because he's seen lots of young men in action, and there's a difference between fake terror and real terror, and this fox has real terror. Suppose this thing has killed the ferret. Most people don't believe him. They go off on an adventure to try and find where he runs off to. While that's happening, this little alien thing that looks kind of like this lamp here. You notice it's got tentacles. This little mechanical device shows up in this lady's house as she's cooking pies. She tries to shoo it off like it's a rat or something. And it basically nukes her. I mean, it burns her to the ground and lights her house on fire. So there's this alien thing going on. I'm
loving this.
Yeah, this is like issue, I think it's like 6 issues or, one of 6. So it's like a mini series.
Yeah.
It's just fun. It's just this fun, quaint little.
Well, and I love his writing. So
there's the pig getting fried, and she's gonna shoo it off. She's gonna shoot it off with a broom. A proper British pig cooking pies. This thing she doesn't know what it is, annoying her, so she goes to shoo it off, and it just goes. One of its tentacles pops sideways, and it just goes and burns her to the ground. But so who knows what's going on? But I don't know.
I loved Resurrection Man and
right.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, it seemed fun. Boom Studio, 6 issues. It can't hurt me too bad, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's good.
yeah,
That actually sounds kind of fun too.
it is. It's just like it's fun listening to their talking their little British Britishisms and whatnot. It's just kind of fun.
Comic book prediction about that. I do these every once in a while. This one I know I'll be wrong. I bet the creature's a human.
That would be hilarious. What is this monster? Oh, that'd be cool.
Twilight Zone. I've been watching a lot of Twilight Zone lately.
Oh, okay.
So,
Coffin Hill. You still reading Coffin Hill?
I dropped it. I'm not gonna lie.
No.
I know. I was one of the when it started. I was one of the people that was like, check this out. I don't know why I dropped it too. I don't remember it starting to stink or anything.
I'm really digging it. I'm loving this story where they're still telling us what happened in the past, what happened while she was a brand new policeman. That whole Ice Fisher mystery that's going on. Who it is that, and then of course, Nate, our police chief's older brother, showed up, and he's always been kind of a douchebag. They showed him as a douchebag in the past. He shows up. He hates witches. He hates witches with a passion. He knows witches exist. They kind of messed with him, made him a drunk, alcoholic, heroin addict for some time. He's cleaned up his act because he's found other people who hate witches too. There's some other coven that's out hunting witches. They're a coven also. They seem to use some sort of magic, but supposedly their magic's good, even though it looks really creepy in here. And they've sent him back to Coffin Hill to deal with his past, and he's killing witches. He kills one in this issue. He guts her, so I'm assuming she's going to end up being dead by the time the thing's done. Yeah. Which is interesting that he's taking this whole role on, because there's a couple other witches still floating around Coffin Hill. One of them is trapped in the Coffin Hill estate. She's in the basement. There's this awesome panel of whatever the hell these creatures are. Let's see if I can find it here. She's stuck in a basement. There's a ghost. I think this is a ghost anyway, of one of the old Coffin Hill witches. She's trying to help her, but she's in the basement, and these creatures are there, and they are belching little eggs, and the little eggs pop open. And these giant spiders with fangs come rolling out, and I don't like spiders, so it was very creepy but very cool. The art continues to be just, I think, fabulous in the book. Like I said, I'm enjoying it. I'm having a good time with it.
The advice I'd give to anyone starting out with that comic is to give it time, because it has a slow build at the beginning. You really are like, is this going to even be a supernatural book at all at first? And it just gets really tense, and it's almost Hitchcockian in a lot of ways, where it just kind of slowly, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere you're like, I'm not going to spoil, but
and then this second arc is the same way. You'll have everything will be conventional. Just kind of conventional stuff. Everything seems, on the up and up. Even though they kind of hint at, to even say the word witch, everybody that's kind of like, whatever. It's kind of bullshit. Just like in this day and age, there are obviously, there are witches out there, people who practice Wicca, and that seems to be the most people ever really think about it.
But cliche.
Right, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, some crazy thing happens that makes you just kind of, like in the basement where those things are belching all those eggs out, and they turn to, suddenly something like that happens, and you're just like, what? Kind of thing. So yeah, it's I'm still really enjoying it. Like I said, I love the art. I have no problem for reading a slow story that looks gorgeous and has something interesting going on. So
I think I switched to trade. I don't think I'm done with it. I think it was more a cost thing than anything else.
Sure.
Which I'm getting Wolverine and I'm skipping that, so it tells you how good my judgment is.
Well, no, it'll be awesome in trade. I mean, because you'll get the whole story, there and whatnot, and and Vertigo seems to be that to some degree that's their sale model. So I don't think you are completely crippling the book by because with indie books, I'm always concerned if people aren't buying them in singles, and if everybody's waiting for trade, we aren't going to get them because they aren't going to sell enough to keep the people paid to keep doing the book. They'll have to quit and go do something else. So, but that seems to be always been part of Vertigo's model is we're going to sell a few singles and sell a lot of trades. So that's good to go as far as that. Any other indie books we want to talk about?
Anderson Side Division.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, little Judge Dredd.
Old school.
They're concentrating on Anderson herself. It's
Yeah.
a new storyline. It does touch back on the Judge Dredd first year, his rookie year,
Hmm.
and it does touch back on another Judge Dredd storyline that they're tying in one of the old bad guys
Yeah.
that has psychic powers. So they use Anderson. It is good. She does work with another side division person in Texas. They go to the swamps in like the Louisiana, Georgia area, and
Wow.
then now they're coming back to Mega City One. She talks
Yeah.
with Dredd, and they're figuring out it's one of Dredd's old nemesis that he never ever got a hold of. That this guy is now the Kaiser Sose of their storyline,
Hmm.
and everybody fears him. Nobody really believes he's alive, but nobody's willing to challenge it to find out if this guy exists and if they have to worry about him.
Yeah.
And
Anderson.
yeah,
Go ahead. I was just gonna say Anderson has always been the more interesting character out of that pairing. So it's cool that she's getting her own book again.
yeah, and that's definitely the reason why I picked it up. I mean, I was tempted with the last movie that came out. It was,
Hmm.
Dredd was good, but Anderson was interesting,
Yeah.
and it's a $4 book, but it's heavy. I mean, the
Hmm.
great color, great paper, um, artwork in it is kind of I think what you expect with a Judge Dredd,
Yeah.
and
Gritty.
yeah, and it's just nice, and I think just in general I've enjoyed. It's just been a good story, and the fact that it touches back on some stories I just happen to have read, I
Yeah.
thought was pretty nice also. So yeah, I recommend this right now.
Cool. I'm not I'm not up to speed on Judge Dredd, so always interested to
Well,
hear what's going on with it. So
yeah, and I wasn't either. There's like a London YouTube community, and so a
Hmm.
lot of them are always talking about Judge Dredd, and
Oh yeah.
so it was a chance to kind of sample into it, kind of like what I did with Abe Sapien. And this one, it was just a good storyline, and then it just happened to hit back on a storyline that I read. So
Hmm.
I guess I was lucky on that point.
cool.
Uh, Real quick, I got also Archer and Armstrong. They concentrate on the female character Anna Marie. It was just good. It was how she came to be, what happened to her family, and she goes back to settle some scores with because of how who treated her family bad.
Hmm.
So it was just a good book. It wasn't as silly and funny as the other Archer and Armstrongs I've read. This one was a little more serious, but it was just a good characterization book.
Cool.
So, and that's it.
I hear nothing but good things about that book. I gotta get it on a list of things to pick up and trade because, like I said, I just hear nothing but
Yeah,
good stuff about it.
yeah. It's definitely like My Superior Foes. It's a funny, silly, just still a good story and interesting because yeah, I think every time I go to explain it to you guys, it sounds like this weird, wacky thing with Jim Morrison and
Well, it sounds fun. I mean that.
well, yeah,
Nothing wrong with that.
even CDC. It's like every time I go to explain Archer and Armstrong or Drumheller, each one is almost this drug experience that you
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
from a book.
Nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that though. There's
So
So
if it's got people getting high and hallucinating, you're all over it, huh? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, exactly. Evidently, not what I ever thought I would collect. So my Captain America books, I just won't let them see it. So
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd be against that.
yep.
That's funny. That's funny. I got Lazarus. I'm still really digging Lazarus. In this one, we meet another Lazarus, which is always exciting because they're all wrecking machines. So
Hmm.
um, we don't get tons of characterization from them. But the Lazarus as a whole don't seem to have a lot of personality. They don't portray that personality away because of what they represent. They are the ultimate enforcer of their family. So they don't show anything other than power and strength and stuff like that. This is another female Lazarus, which there's some heavy political stuff going on in the issue as they are trying to retrieve one of the Carlyles that went on the run because that Carlyle was kind of backstabbing the rest of the family. So there's some greater political stuff going on that I'll be curious to see about in the future. Still, solid book, really enjoy it.
It's a tight cover too.
Yeah, that's an awesome cover. I mean, there's most of these covers have been really good. They look like movie poster kinds of things. There's one that was really horrific of her when she was a little girl. That cover was just nasty. But most of these covers, look like,
Oh yeah.
Remember that cover?
Like the computer animated looking.
Yeah, and her head's the wrong size, the rest of the body. That was horrible. But most of these covers, like I said, look like movie poster kinds of things. So in this one, they meet up north. This Lazarus shows up and keeps walking forward into the Carlisle territory. And these families, you don't cross into another family's territory without being sanctioned and whatnot. These poor foot soldiers are up there. They're just border patrol. They're like, you can't come here. And she says who she is, and they're like, one of them's like, dude, that's a Lazarus. I mean, what are we gonna do? And they're both basically just sitting there going, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. The one guy draws his rifle and goes, you can't move forward, blah blah blah. And she just keeps stepping forward. One of the guys grabs his gun to try and push the gun away so he doesn't do anything stupid and get them killed. And while he's pushing the gun away, she leaps forward, pulls out a broadsword, and literally splits the dude in half.
Yeah.
And then points her sword at the other guy, and she just keeps repeating, I'm the Lazarus of blah blah company. I want to talk to so and so. And the guy's just like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. He finally he just stands there and he calls it in, to his superiors. And for hours, he's standing there with this woman, the sword just millimeters from his head, getting ready to split his head open. For them to fly this woman in, fly our Lazarus forever in, they're up in Canada somewhere, and they're flying in she's in Denver. So I mean, I'm sure it's probably a couple hours trip. But they're standing out in the snow, in the freezing snow, with this lady with a sword pointed at his head, and they stand there for a long time. It's just really intense. They portray the Lazarus, the enforcers of these families, as just being extremely intense people and really interesting. So if you like dark, near future corporations have just taken over everything, and most of us common people would be screwed. If you like that kind of a depressing story, it's an awesome story.
It doesn't pull any punches.
No,
There's no way around it.
Yeah. And I dig it. I dig it for that. I like dark future type books, so I'm all over for that. Plus, there's the intrigue of who Forever is and her questioning her existence, which is the underlying plot that's going on through the thing too. So
what I like about it is that it never, anytime I have an expectation about it, it never is that.
Yeah.
I can never really predict what it's going to do with that, and I like that. It's one of the few comics that does that for me, and it's incredibly dark. If you're in the mood for a little bit of a depressant, it's perfect.
Yeah.
You're gonna.
Yeah. A potential version of, basically, if you take all what most of us would consider worst case scenarios about corporations, about government, about the really rich, what they get away with versus the really poor, and take that to an extreme, that's this book. I mean, if you like to ponder the very dark corners of what it would be like for corporations to rule the world, this is it. Yeah. So, very cool. I have a few other books, but I don't know that I need to talk about them. Got the latest issue of Bunker. I'm loving Bunker still. It's issue 6. It further goes into the complexities of this whole time traveling thing, people coming back and jacking with the future. I like it. I don't really want to get into it because I know quite a few people are reading it and trading it, so I don't want to spoil anything because there's plenty of stuff in here that if you know it, it kind of would screw up the story if you're going to pick up the trade. Some amazing art. I kind of want to show this page because I just think it's really awesome. A guy is burning a bunch of paperwork, but he's out in the forest. So this is a silhouette, of course, of him watching the fire burning, but of course then you also get the actual fire burning, and it makes his head and stuff. It's just a gorgeous piece of art. The way that is paneled like that,
I just read the first trade actually.
Yeah.
Like a week ago. I didn't want to like it. I'll be honest. At first, I was like, I don't know about this. Yeah. And as I was reading it, I was like, these characters are actually kind of interesting. What's going on with this person?
Right.
Is that and when I realized I'm asking questions about it, I'm clearly interested in what I'm reading. So.
Yeah. And that's what I like about it too. Is it's kind of like the whole idea of these people obviously seemingly living a great, a decent life. They're just freshly out of college, going to get ready to go on life, and then you start finding out just how screwed up some of them are, And the whole idea of you suddenly have this information about what your future is going to be, and that maybe somehow that's being manipulated, just what that's going to do with your head and how much more that's going to screw up your relationship with everybody else that you know is part of this whole thing. To me, that's the interesting part of it. Just how big of a train wreck the whole thing is going to be. I want to watch it. I want to see what happens. How, what's really the right thing here and whatnot. And it's just, yeah.
And they've, I've been watching a lot of Twilight Zone lately, so there's some part of that in there where it's kind of like, would you want to know your future, really? And I don't know, it's
well, the whole idea of having your future spell. I mean, I'm one of those people. I don't believe in it all happens for a reason and your fate is set in stone. And this kind of presents you with the fact that in a lot of ways it is. It's like, I'm giving you all this information, but you have to follow through with it. I'm telling you your future, but you can't change it, because if you change it, supposedly everything's going to die. The entire world is going to be dead. You have to follow through with this. And a lot of the stuff you have to follow through with is crappy, crappy stuff. It's absolutely shitty things are going to happen. Yeah. But you can't stop it, because if you stop it, supposedly it's going to kill everything. Worse.
Yeah,
that's horrible. To know that would be so horrible, and I'm curious to see who caves, because I don't think everybody's going to be able to follow through. So there's already chinks in the armor of some of these people are like, wait a second, why are we buying into this? So I don't know. I don't know how long this story can last. I mean it's an ongoing. I don't know how long they can really drag this whole thing out. I mean, obviously it goes clear into the future, but I don't know. It'll be curious to see how long they can keep it on the rails or off the rails or whatever's going to happen. That's what I'm really curious about with it. Just that whole questioning, how what would you do? So
yeah, I love the fact that it is exploring the determinism versus free will thing to a degree, and because at the end of the day, maybe they are being lied to, and maybe this is someone from the future saying, "I'm going to get the future I want." And this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to make them think that they have to do the things that I need them to do. Or it could be determinism and just they're going to do it anyway. You don't know. Just really awesome philosophical argument in it, and that's what kind of pulled me in too.
Yeah. That picture I showed you of the papers burning, those are papers from the bunker.
Oh.
Being burnt by somebody in particular that I don't think you've been exposed to yet in that first trade. So
Tony's good about its trades or is this? I mean, is that where they probably put their bread and butter too, or? Because I was wondering, by not picking up issues. Or...
Well, okay, so Oni Press, just to give you an example, I don't know what the sales were for. Oni Press also does Six Gun, and I don't know what the sales were of Six Gun when it first came out. But Six Gun right now, last time I remember. Damien Sleepreader 666 talking about sales, it was selling like 4,000 issues in singles.
Right. Wow.
But it's still going. They keep selling out. The trades keep selling out, so they keep making it. So, am I telling you don't go pick this up in singles because it's going to be dead? I don't know. I don't think the sales have to be the same kind of thing. I mean, obviously, it's a $4 book. I just know from what creators have said, if you're putting out an image book, however their percentages work, an image book has to sell about $12,000. I mean, 12,000 issues. If it can sell 12,000 issues, the artist makes a living.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to do anything else. So how does this work for this book? I don't know. Okay. I'm assuming if the first trade's out, if it sells well enough, if the singles aren't really strong, and they can make enough money off the trade, great. I mean, you can't jump on this book. You can't.
No.
You have to start from the beginning. I'm just saying, you can't. There's no way. If you picked up issue 6, you're not going to have a flying flip as to what's going on. You can't. You cannot do it. You have to read it from the beginning.
All right.
So. Yeah, it's definitely too nuanced, at the same time very detailed, where if you tried to jump on and try to just be like, okay, I kind of got it, there's too much there.
Yeah.
I mean, you really get to know these characters. They get built from the ground up as you go through it, so there's no way. And I highly doubt they're going to go back and be like, well, you remember this. There's going to be none of that where they'll fill you in.
No, because heck, more than likely, with this book, the next time they give you the same piece of information, they're going to turn it on its ear and say, yeah, we told you that, but that's not really what. I mean, that's you have better chances of that happening than you do them just going back and referencing something again. Because every time they reference it, it's from a different viewpoint, and when you get it from that other viewpoint, it means something completely different. There's a bombing that happens in it that's pretty significant. It kind of sets the ball moving, and in this issue, they refer to that bombing, and it's under completely different implications in this issue. It just really screws with what you thought in like issue 3 or 4 when the bombing happens. It messes it up. So yeah, you have to read it from the beginning. I mean, if you get that first trade, if you like it, you can then jump on singles. If you're one of those people that doesn't care if you have both in your collection, and you decide you're interested enough to read it in singles and get it in singles, But yeah, there's no jumping on in the middle of it. Yeah. Any other books you want to talk about?
Not that I've read yet, so no.
I've got Suicide Risk, and I've got the Super Annuated Man. I'm not going to touch either one of those. They're both. I enjoyed both of them. Suicide Risk is, if you haven't been reading along or know the story, this issue would be somewhat meaningless. We're trying to come to what feels like it might be an ending, as far as, or we're coming to the crescendo, the big crash of everything, and then we'll see what there is to pick up pieces as far as it at issue 17. And the Superannuated Man continues to be
gorgeous.
Yes, Ted McKeever being Ted McKeever. If you dig his crazy pants stories with awesome black and white art, this is cool. I loved it. It's got just nutsy stuff in it. And if you don't like it, you aren't going to like it, kind of a thing. But it's just, it absolutely. I mean, everything from just people walking around, trash. I mean, this great picture of him walking along wearing his All-Star Converse.
Yeah.
You can clearly tell that's what they are. I mean, because this place it's set in this kind of future where all the animals have mutated. They've all evolved, so they're all humanoid in a sense. They're the new thing. Humans are the thing of the past, and so he, the main character's name is he. That's what they all call him, is he. Is in conflict because he is this antiquated kind of thing. He's this piece of biological technology that shouldn't exist anymore, and somehow he's still around. And then, of course, like I said, there's this crazy stuff. Here's this hyena guy, and this elephant dude. This is the most messed up dude I've seen so far. He's got a mouth on the end of his truck. He has a human hand. He has an elephant foot for his other hand. But he's wearing boots and pants. I mean, it's just, Like I said, if you're familiar with this creator, this is his kind of stuff. I love it. It's oversized, golden aged. So it's bigger than, which is frustrating hell to find bags for, but as I keep complaining about. But cool for the art, see these big panels of gorgeous, black and white art that's just awesome for that sense.
Yeah, I'm just getting it for the art, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that weird kind of stuff. I don't know. Yeah,
same here.
It's an acquired taste. I would never say.
Yeah, I love it, but I never tell anybody to pick it up. It's one of those kind of things. Like I said, for me anymore, anything that he's putting out, I'm going to pick up because I just love his style, and I'm okay with it being weird and maybe it doesn't all going to make sense at the end of the day. I don't care. I enjoy it. It's my kind of thing, but it's definitely one of those kind of things I don't say, run out and get it. Kind of a deal. Hopefully you picked up another. If you were curious about it, hopefully you picked up one of the Image books. I think last month, because I think they had some sample work in some of the issues of Image last month. So hopefully you kind of got to see what it might be like. Mm-hmm. And if you were interested in it, get it. If you weren't, stay away from it.
Pretty much.
So yeah, that's my books for the week.
Yeah.
So I think we're done. I don't think anything else to talk about. It's late. We've talked for almost 2.5, pushing 3 hours.
Wow.
So we
Sorry.
still have 11 viewers. Awesome for you 11 viewers that that hung out this entire time or came back and forth. If you wondered if we were only going to talk DC at the beginning of the book, because I saw beginning of the show, I saw some comments from some people wondering if we were going to talk about else. We did get to other things else. We just take a long time. The show is just kind of a
Sorry.
unorganized random thing. If we get off on a tangent, we talk about that a whole bunch and whatnot. There are days where it's Marvel, or more often than not, it's the indie books we talk about a whole bunch, or we get sidetracked talking about things that don't matter at all. That's the nature of the show.
I know
I'm not
covered Marvel pretty well.
Yep. I'm not going to apologize for any of it. So there you go. That's what it is. Enjoy it for what it is, for those of you who do. And I guess find something else to do on a Saturday night if it's not your thing. So as simple as that. Anyway, enjoy having you guys here. Enjoy having you here, Mike. As always, great to see you back. CDC, come back anytime.
Sure.
We can talk more books. And yeah. Anyway, I'll be back next week on Saturday, as per usual. Now, have a great night, everybody.
See ya.
Yeah.